Rick's, sorry, Nick's disappeared.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, folks.
Nick Camacho's here, but he's just troubleshooting something.
Fiddling around with
troubleshooting
some equipment.
He's playing with his equipment.
Yeah, that's why we had to go off screen for a second.
Right. Family show. That was very funny, though, Tim. We all had a good laugh about the Newlywed Game. That was quite a show.
Nick Anderson.
What's that?
No, you aren't. It's probably Camacho. It's probably coming.
He said he put himself on speaker.
Ah, why didn't I hear him say that?
I don't know. He said, I'm going to go on speaker, so you might hear an echoey or something.
Oh, obviously. I'm just quick as a whip today.
Hi, David Lieb. We did get your feedback just under the wire.
And I haven't even listened to it. So it better be, family friendly, David. I know you.
It is. I've listened to it.
Okay. How's the volume on it? Is it good?
Seemed very good to seemed good to me.
David's an audio pro, so he
Hi, Donna Rose.
Let's see. I'm just going to play just a little bit of it.
Greetings, APG crew.
There we go.
Sounds just
Does that sound good?
Yeah.
All right.
Hi, Neil.
Cheers, everybody in the chat room. Merry Christmas.
Got a lot of stuff to cover on the show.
Yeah, well, just cover what you want to cover. Jump around.
I haven't listened to Paul Yurichek's. What?
You mean number 13?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I did. Paul sent another one in this afternoon, but it's going to be for the next show.
Okay.
Ludger, Guten Tag.
Ludger. So we do plan
Guten Tag,
on maybe Fröhlich Weihnachten. Ludger. How did I sound? Fröhlich Wein. Now I've forgotten how to say it.
You sounded like an imposter.
Weihnachten. I think that means.
I haul boxes. This should be our mantra, Jeff.
Hang on, I'm not on the window. Cover what you want to cover, but sensitive bits first, please. Okay, I'll take your advice, I haul. Although normally that's a bad thing, to take your advice or to take Tim Van Ram's.
Yeah, those two guys.
You never do that, do you?
No, you got to really think about what you're doing before you do. Mm-hmm. Also,
hi, Mrs.
Thank you, Ludger. Hey, Tanya. Nice chatting with you earlier today. The thing about the link for people to join us, we'll probably experiment with that a little bit at the end of the show. If y'all are still there or you want
for joining us for the 600th, you mean?
Yeah, well, I do mean that. Yeah, to practice for.
Yeah, that's fine.
The 600.
Just clarifying because
I think they understood what they meant, but maybe not.
I didn't, so.
Oh. Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. And just to be clear about that,
599.9.
Kind of getting. Yes, Liz is a stickler. I haul. Just to be just a quick comment about that. Again, please make sure that. I tell you what I'll do. I'll put that document in the maybe not.
I'm not sure what Jeff's rambling on about here, but
for people coming on as guests on the show. 600.
Yes. Okay. Gotcha.
I'm going to post a link to the chat so you can read up on what requirements you'll need to have for you to join us.
Windows 97.
I'm not sure it goes into what computer. And then also, it's not like we're going to have you on for the full 3 hours. It's going to be like, come on and say what you need to say, and then
get off again.
yeah, we'll chat a little bit, and then you're out of there. 'Cause
Yeah,
we need
we're
to
going to
make room
have
for
somebody with a
everybody else.
hook, like, you know.
Oh,
All we do
yeah,
is
like
just-
the Muppets.
Well, every single one of us here on the crew have the ability to delete you.
Jeff, your audio is all. Was I the only one, or
That
was
was
Jeff's
you. Yeah,
audio
you were.
skipping around
No,
there?
That was you, Liz. It was you, Liz.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
At least your
Thank goodness.
Liz's audio was bad to me. I don't know if Liz's audio
Okay,
was bad to
her
anyone.
her audio was good for me the whole time.
Interesting. Maybe it was me then.
I don't know.
I think I got everything reassembled here. So I
Okay,
assume you can
cool.
hear me.
Jim Mercado,
Yes,
hi.
normally.
Look who's in the chat room.
How's the volume, the gain? I'm sorry on that.
My gain is all the way up.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Jeff, our brand
Yeah, I see that.
ambassador,
Hey,
is in
Jim.
the
Hey, Mirko.
Mirko. I
I
love
didn't
it.
know that was your nickname.
It's better than Mirka. Mirka.
No, that would be even better. Mirka. Mark.
Somebody's still using speakers.
I think it's
Don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
as he
Not
quickly
me.
pushes a button. No, not me.
Don't do that.
Oh,
don't.
That's what we're going to have today on today's show. We're going to watch Captain Nick.
Yeah, it's
shave
not. It's
his
like an
beard.
unboxing. It's a shaving.
Well, I'm just unboxing my new razor, you see.
Oh, it's Christmas come early.
Well, I had to order it for myself because my last one died, and it was too late to ask people to get a Christmas present. Well, it was good.
It's never too
So-
late.
Jim Mercado, or Mirko in the chat, is our brand ambassador or brand manager, and he's the one that came up with that APG logo, Fly Acme logo, and he's helped us with a bunch of different stuff. So, and he's out there in the South Bay area. Are you Santa Clara County, Jim? Because we have a news.
You mean this thing he came
That
up with?
one,
That's
yes.
the one. Yeah.
Anyway,
Very nice.
we have a
We
news
like that.
item about.
Yeah. What county is Tim Van Ram in?
I think he's in
Is he in
Marin
Marin?
County.
Oh, is he?
Marin County. Yeah.
Marin,
Marin
County?
County. Yeah. Novato is in Marin County.
Whatever it is.
No, it's not Marin.
I believe that's a very, very nice area to live in. How
That's
did
what
Tim
you- I
Van
believe
Ram?
it is.
How did Tim Van Ram get in there?
Government assistance program, I think.
Section 8 housing.
He knows I'm joking. It's very,
Yeah,
very
we
nice
love
up
you,
there.
Tim.
Very nice. I know.
Nobody
I know,
else does.
Used to know somebody.
Tim Van Ram says all the levels are good at the moment, which is
What?
good to hear. I know.
Impossible.
That's
Man,
Quick,
no.
somebody start overmodulating.
I was going to say that just means that another person's going to drop in here any minute. And
Yeah,
totally
Steffi will
screw
be here
everything
any
up.
minute. And
I'm still bitter.
right,
Very
fine.
convenient for her to miss the pre-show banter after that barbecue bomb she dropped.
yes, that was talk about fighting words, eh? Ooh.
that was kind of rude.
Wonder if has she ever had Kansas City barbecue?
Can you imagine somebody whose barbecue is propped up by vinegar, the most disgusting substance on the face of the earth, and they take pride in that?
Sort of cuts through the.
Hey,
I like
steady
it all.
on.
Mr.
like
Mr.
curry
Mr.
is
Mr. Mercado is in
got
San
vinegar in it.
Mateo.
Oh, San Mateo County?
Okay, so that's just north. San Mateo's a city, isn't it? I think that's just north of San Jose.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just wondering if it was in Santa Clara County. Well, anyway, one of our news items is regarding
San
Santa
Mateo.
Clara.
Jim.
I understand. Thank you. Hello, Steph.
Mizzou says, Nick Camacho, you cannot say bomb in an aviation environment. So-
That's fair.
Well, you shouldn't. You
Hi,
can.
Steffi.
Hi, sorry. I fully intended to be on time today, so you can
Yeah,
mark
right.
that one
Yeah,
against me.
go on. Pull the other one.
For you,
For me, this is very on time, right?
Yeah.
I
It
know.
is. No, it is.
I failed to take into account how much mall traffic sucks around Christmas
Yeah,
time.
how many cars there are in the world?
I know. Well, I never drive around at this time of day. Usually I'm at work. I had no idea. I was like, oh, that's like a 35-minute. No, it was like an hour drive back. I was like, what?
What's going on? Oh,
Well, you
that's
made
right.
it. We haven't started yet, so well done.
Christmas shopping.
Yeah, and traffic in general. Like even once I was out of like the mall environment, I was like, what? Where are you all going? Go home.
They're all going shopping.
Yes,
Yeah,
go
they've
home and
forgotten something.
go home and turn on YouTube and watch
Watch-
the
yeah.
APG.
Exactly.
What's the matter with them?
But I have a beer now and my Santa hat. So we're
Nice.
my blinged
It's
out
all good. You and Nick are.
festive.
I know. I was just
Doing
thinking. I
our
don't have a
best.
Santa hat, but I have
No,
a
I
little.
don't either.
You do have a Christmas tree behind you, though.
I have a
so it's-
Santa sweater I could put on like a
I have
cardigan.
lots of hats, but I don't
my
have a Santa hat.
Christmas tree and my stocking
I have my Christmas piano behind
keyboard.
me.
Yeah.
It's very, that's the most festive of all the. Wait, is it? When is Festivus? Was it yesterday? Today? What?
I don't know what day that
Be
is.
right back.
I always forget.
Let me,
Do you have
check.
do you have some grievances, Steph?
It's the 23rd
Saturday.
this year. Saturday. I always have grievances, but I was thinking it might be the traditional Festivus
The
Christmas piano.
23rd this year.
know.
It's the 23rd every year, I think.
Is it? I always forget. I always want to call it. Say it's the 19th, but it's not. I know that's wrong.
I believe winter officially arrives later this evening in the northern hemisphere.
Yay.
9:20 something p.m. if you're on the
Something like
East Coast.
that.
Is what? What is that?
Winter
Winter
solstice.
officially arrives in the northern hemisphere.
May I test the generic bed from the soundboard?
You're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show.
The view from our side of the cockpit door.
How's that?
Sounds good.
Good.
This hat might be too warm though. It's like 60 degrees outside all of a sudden.
You don't have to wear it.
But now my hair's all messed up.
Okay, then wear it. You need
San
better
Mateo
lighting
is a
stuff.
city
You're really
and a
dark.
county, Jeff. It's both a
wow.
city and a county.
I know. But our story regards Santa Clara. Oh, I'm not talking about San Mateo. I'm talking about Santa Clara County.
Well, no, but you said, is he in Santa Clara? And he said San Mateo.
And you said,
And then
is
I
that-
said San Mateo's a city. And he
I
said
know,
it's
but
a
I
city.
think I said Santa Clara County, but I'm,
You did.
I'm sorry if I didn't say the county part of it.
I don't
I don't know.
understand what's happening at this
I
point.
don't either.
I feel like we asked him if he was in Santa Clara. He just said no, he's in San Mateo.
Okay. Whatever.
But I
It
don't
doesn't
think there's
really
any.
matter when it comes
I don't
down
think
to
there's any airports in San Mateo County. Oh, maybe San Carlos might be in.
I don't know.
Too many sands out there in California.
There were lots
Too
of
many
saints.
saints. Not.
Whoa.
I'm sorry. I feel I could say that because I'm a native Californian.
Oh, I
This
thought
is-
because you thought you were a saint.
No, I don't think I'm a saint.
This is the best I have for lighting until the sun goes down. Sorry.
Okay.
Not used to
We need
Just
to
doing
send
this during
Just
the daytime.
put your head over that bright spot. Yep, back a little. Now more towards the camera.
Yeah.
A little more towards
Your
Yep,
camera.
there you go.
Your
There you go.
camera is
Perfect.
Yeah, is
Perfect.
is exposing.
Your
for
teeth
that
are very
spot.
bright. That's
Perfect.
good. Just keep smiling. We'll see you there.
Perfect. Like, why are you sitting over here the whole time? I gotta point my microphone. There we go.
Ah,
Are we-
San Carlos is in San Mateo, so they do have an airport.
There you go.
Are we ready? Almost?
I don't know. I'm not really sure what I'm going to say for the intro, but since we don't
The
have
same thing
Radio
you always
Roger,
say.
Yeah,
for the-
Roger
No.
didn't
Oh.
come through this week.
not the same
no.
thing I always say.
Well, the same thing you used to say before, Roger.
Yeah, I know, but I just don't.
He's
I don't
gotten
know how to
lazy.
say it anymore. Yeah. Yeah, I'll just make up something really dumb and
Have stuff,
and
dude.
then hopefully
No.
hopefully Radio Roger will come in with a real one, and then I'll put that. on
Well,
the audio.
after we get going, I'll send him. I don't want to make him feel bad right now, but I'll make him feel bad a
You don't
little
have to worry
later.
about it right now. We'll wait. We can
Yeah.
contact him tomorrow.
Oh, Half Moon Bay.
I'm not going to be publishing this thing until Monday anyway. It's Christmas Day, so he's got time. Alrighty. What day is today? That's 21st of December. Okay. I am recording because you asked, and
I was just
there you
about to.
And so I'm recording in 2 different places, and I believe I remembered to do it in the setup for the stream. So I think we were in
Access
3
to USB
places.
Oh, no.
Okay.
I
Let's.
knew she was going to come on and cause problems.
Me?
We can still see, though.
Who's going clog, clog?
Not me.
Not me.
So why don't we go ahead and put the old logo up there in full screen?
Yes.
And here we go. Let's give this a whirl. See what
Got it.
happens.
You're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show.
The view from our side of the cockpit door.
WAPG, it's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Airline Pilot Guy, episode 599.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Hello. You're listening to the... No, what do I normally say here? Shoot. Yeah, that's what I say. Listening to the Airline Pilot Guy show. The view from our side of the cockpit door. I'm Captain Jeff. Blah, 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 blah. Got a bunch of great hosts here and broadcasting and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the Airline Pilot Guy.
I haven't lost it.
Picture light and he's flying by. The Airline Pilot Guy.
All right, today's news, we have an uplifting story about a decapitated wingsuit flyer. We have, people being sued. Just all kinds of great news. So sit back and relax. Seat backs in their upright lock positions. Electronic devices powered on. Flight 599 is ready for pushback. Welcome to the Airline Pilot Guy show, everybody. Let's see. Thank you, Radio Roger. He's an award-winning TV and radio reporter, currently at the #1 all-news station in the nation, 1010 Wins in
New York City.
Welcome to the Airline Pilot Guy show. It's an aviation podcast covering the latest in aviation news and answering your great feedback. And joining us today from her lakeside studio in South
Kakalaki.
Dr. Skydiver, marathon runner, strength training junkie, IPA connoisseur, commercial multi-engine instrument rated, backstabbing, jumper dumper, and Ironman, Dr. Steph.
Hey, not like I needed more things for you to add to my intro there, so you can feel free to mix and match, pick and choose, and definitely add never tardy, Dr. Steph.
Never tardy.
Never tardy.
And
right
always,
on time, always.
Always
Punctual.
on the show,
Punctual.
every single week.
Yes. Glad to be
Most
here.
of the time.
Looking forward to it.
All right, we are too, and also joining us from his studio,
in Hartford, Hereford, and Hampshire.
professional photographer, former RAF, RAAF fighter pilot, retired Airbus A330-340 captain for Virgin Atlantic Airways. It's Captain Nick.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Jeff and Steph. I've been to a funeral today, and the way this show's going, the next one's going to be mine.
All of ours. Thank you. The APG show, its funeral. And also joining us from his studio in the Air Capital, low and slow pilot, A&P mechanical, airplane enthusiast, and engineer in the aerospace and defense industry. It's Nick Camacho.
Hey, guys. Glad to be back. Looking forward to it.
And also, finally, from a place to stand, a place to grow, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, retired financier and aviation enthusiast, spreadsheet master, and our producer, it's Liz Piper.
Hello, everybody. Happy winter solstice to everyone in the Northern Hemisphere.
Well played.
Longer days ahead.
Yay.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yay.
Sorry
All right.
if you're in the Southern Hemisphere.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tough luck.
Have a good show, you guys.
Thanks, Liz.
Thanks, Liz.
Cheers, Liz.
stand by for news.
Now we're going to start off with something from the Aviation Herald, avherald.com. It's a final report. It involves a JetBlue Airbus A320-200 registration November 760 Juliet Bravo, performing flight 1748 from Hayden, Colorado to Fort Lauderdale, Florida. They were departing Hayden's runway 10 at 11:57 local time when the aircraft's tail contacted the runway surface. The aircraft continued a normal departure and climbed to flight level 310. When Denver Center forwarded a message to the crew stating they had a tail strike on the departure runway. The crew subsequently decided to divert to Denver, Colorado, where the aircraft landed on runway 35 right without further incident about 45 minutes after departure from Hayden. No injuries. The aircraft sustained substantial damage, however. Let's see. The NTSB investigation ensued, and let's see, where is the meat here? Where's the beef? That was another episode, wasn't it? Let's see. On the 13th of December 2023, the NTSB released their final report and investigation docket, including the probable causes of the accident, where the captain's rotation of the airplane pitched before the rotation speed on takeoff due to his surprise about encountering head-on landing traffic, which landed in an exceedance of the airplane's pitch limit, which resulted in an exceedance of the airplane's pitch limit and a subsequent tail strike. Yes, Liz, what do you say? Oh, okay. Contributing to the accident was the flight crew's expectation bias that the incoming aircraft was landing on the same runway as they were departing from, and the conflicting traffic's non-standard use of phraseology when making position calls on the Common Traffic Advisory frequency. So the NTSB analyzed JetBlue Airways Flight 1748 incurred a tail strike taking off from Yampa Valley, Hayden. Let's see, about 11:48 Mountain Standard Time. JetBlue's 1748 flight crew announced on the Common Traffic Advisory Frequency, CTAF, that they were leaving the ramp area to taxi to runway 10, or 10, for departure. A few seconds later, a Beechcraft B300 King Air, November 350 Juliet, on an Instrument Flight Rules flight plan reported on the local CTAF that they were about 9 miles out for 10, coming in from the east, descending out of 17,000 feet. The Unicom operator responded to November 350 Juliet, stating that there were multiple aircraft inbound and winds were calm, and provided the altimeter setting. After this exchange, the JetBlue crew began discussing the active runway and the multiple inbound planes using runway 10. 2 minutes later, the JetBlue flight crew contacted Denver ARTCC, Denver Center, and reported that they were at Hayden, preparing for engine start, would be ready for departure in about 6 or 7 minutes. The Denver controller asked the flight crew if they were planning on departing from runway 10, to which the crew concurred, and the Denver Center controller instructed them to contact him when they were ready for departure. About the time the JetBlue flight crew was starting their second engine and conducting engine checks, the King Air flight crew was contacting Denver Center to cancel their IFR flight plan because they had visually acquired Hayden and intended to land on runway 28. Okay, so initially they said they were going to come into 10, but then they changed their mind, their visual, they're going to use 28. The Denver Center controller acknowledged the IFR cancellation, instructed them to squawk 1200, and approved a radio frequency change. The King Air's flight crew subsequently announced on CTAF that they were going to go ahead and land 28, and we're straight in 28 right now. About 10 seconds later, the JetBlue flight crew announced on CTAF they were leaving the ramp area and were taxiing to runway 10 for departure. Hayden Unicom reported that multiple airplanes were inbound and the winds were calm. While the JetBlue flight crew was performing an after-start checklist, the King Air announced on CTAF they were on a 12-mile final, 28 straight in. After 45 seconds, the King Air asked on CTAF if anyone was about to depart from runway 10, and the JetBlue flight crew replied that they intended to hold on the taxiway near the end of runway 10 and wait for a clearance from Denver Center. The King Air replied they were on a 10-mile 28 straight in. The JetBlue flight crew said, "All right, copy," and that they would keep an eye out for them. About 11:55, the JetBlue flight crew announced or contacted Denver Center and reported they were ready for departure on runway 10 at Hayden. The Denver Center controller cleared them to Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport as filed with a 2-minute clearance void time. Flight crew read back the clearance, including the 2-minute void time restriction. According to the AIM, the Aeronautical Information Manual, a pilot may receive a clearance when operating from an airport without a control tower, which contains a restriction for the clearance to be void if not airborne by a specific time. A pilot who does not depart before the clearance void time must advise air traffic control as soon as possible of their intentions. About a minute later, the JetBlue flight crew announced on CTAF that they had received their clearance, would depart on runway 10 within 5 seconds. The King Air's flight crew reported they had a King Air on final 28 and that they had been calling. JetBlue's flight crew replied on CTAF that they thought the King Air was 8 or 9 miles out, to which the King Air replied they were 4 miles out, even less than that. The JetBlue first officer, pilot monitoring, stated that they looked for the airplane both visually and on their onboard traffic alert and collision avoidance system and did not see any traffic. JetBlue flight crew announced or acknowledged the King Air looked for traffic approaching runway 10 and announced on CTAF that they were beginning their takeoff from runway 10 at Hayden. The King Air's flight crew replied that they were on short final, and I hope you don't hit us. According to ADS-B data, when JetBlue taxied on runway 10, the King Air was on a reciprocal course 4.91 nautical miles from JetBlue. JetBlue's crew increased thrust for takeoff about 11:57. About 11 seconds later, just prior to the 80 knots call-out, the pilot monitoring asked the pilot flying if the King Air was on runway 28. The captain pilot flying asked, "Is he?" To which the PM said, "Yes, he's on 28. Do you see him?" To which the pilot flying said, "No." After the event, the JetBlue first officer explained that he observed traffic directly ahead on the TCAS during takeoff run and pointed it out on the display to the captain. About 20 seconds after JetBlue started their takeoff on runway 10, the flight crew of the King Air asked JetBlue if they were going to do a quick turnout, to which they replied, "Yes, sir." Concurrent to this conversation, JetBlue's captain pitched the airplane up 24 knots before rotation speed to avoid the approaching King Air and subsequently struck the tail of the airplane on the runway surface. He began a climbing right turn away from the traffic indicated on the TCAS. JetBlue's captain and first officer both stated they had never visually acquired the approaching King Air. According to ADS-B data, when JetBlue began its right turn after departure from runway 10, the King Air was on a reciprocal course with 2.27 nautical miles of separation between the converging airplanes. Based on FDR data, the tail strike occurred about 11:57. The crew continued their departure procedures, discussed if they had experienced a tail strike, initially deciding to continue the flight to Fort Lauderdale. At 12:03, they asked the flight attendants what they felt in the back of the airplane, to which the flight attendants stated they felt a tail strike. At this time, the aircraft was about 16,000 feet in altitude. Within 2 minutes of getting the flight attendant feedback about 20,000 feet, they contacted the airline's maintenance controller for guidance, although the aircraft had not enunciated any warnings regarding a pressurization issue. Okay, so far it looked like it was pressurizing normally. About 5 minutes later, when climbing through 26,000 feet, the maintenance controller recommended they land immediately so the airplane could be inspected for damage. They leveled the aircraft at flight level 310 and decided to divert to Denver, where they made a safe landing. Now they go on in this report. I'll stop here and we can discuss it a little bit about what they faulted the King Air November 350 Juliet, their communications on CTAF, because the FAA Advisory Circular 90-66B describes the self-announced procedure that pilots use at uncontrolled airports. You state your call sign, position, altitude, and intended activity on the designated common traffic advisory frequency. In this event, 350 Juliet made several calls, including their original intent to land on runway 10, and then their decision to switch to runway 28. However, the composition of these calls had the potential to be clearer. So basically, they said 28 instead of runway 28, or 10 instead of runway 10. I don't think that's a big, to me, that doesn't seem to be a big factor. I think that's going to be
understood in that environment, but could it be clearer?
That's what I think, too.
Yes, but it was probably universally understood what they were saying.
So what's your take here, Steph? What happened? Was the JetBlue crew like kind of just in their head thinking that the King Air was going to be landing on the same runway they're using for takeoff?
No, I think they actually understood. I mean, from what you just read there, that the King Air was going to be landing on 28 because they discussed that. They didn't say that.
No, when the King Air first.
No, when they first called in, they said 10, and they talked about that. But
they did. Well, you're right. They did acknowledge.
They acknowledged.
They went, all right, but I don't think mentally they acknowledged it.
Well, so I was going back to what they said about.
I think they were very surprised when all of a sudden they realized
8 or 9 miles out, 4 miles less
Mm-hmm.
than that. Oh yeah, it does say look for traffic approaching runway 10 or 10.
Yeah, when they were doing their scan for traffic and TCAS and everything else, I think in their heads they still, even though they acknowledge what the King Air said, I think that in their heads they're still thinking they're coming in behind us.
So either way, if you guys went on a 4 mile final for the runway you're going to be departing, King Airs have a fairly high approach speed. I mean, they're not, a 150 out there doing 70 knots on final. They're going to be a bit faster than that, so they're going to cover ground pretty quickly. If you don't have a visual on them, I don't know that I would be going anywhere, even with that clearance void time of 2 minutes.
That's a major factor, I think. They were under
I think they felt the pressure of the time to depart.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't see them on TCAS, so they didn't really know where they were. But man, that's just not the time to rush. I mean, this kind of stuff happens to me all the time at the airport that I fly at.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's hard to see ADSB info for me if I'm on the ground. The Stratus that I have, the receiver, doesn't pick up as well unless I'm in the air. It doesn't receive the towers as well sometimes. And the environment that I fly in, it's a lot of general aviation pilots, and most of them are very good about making the correct call outs and self-announcing, self-reporting. But there's a lot of folks out there too who've spent a lot of time flying in the country and not doing a lot of talking on the radio, or maybe not actually knowing which runway they're going to be landing on, or getting the runway numbers wrong. If someone's in the environment and I haven't figured out exactly where they are, I'm not going anywhere. And I've had the opposite happen too, the reverse. Actually, just not this past weekend, but the weekend before, switched over to CTAF after being with Charlotte Center or Charlotte Approach, and then usually they get pretty busy. But a lot of times if there's traffic in the area, they'll say, hey, there's one, appears to be inbound to the south or, in the vicinity. Nothing about that, and was not on my ADSB until I got much closer to them. And I have no idea why that happens sometimes, but, it's a tool. It's not perfect. But definitely they were on short final for a converging runway, and had visual, and then just in the course of setting up and maneuvering, no longer had visual on them. It's easy enough just to make a decision to, come back around and set up for another approach to landing. Give them all the time and space they need. They were there first.
Gotcha. What was the other thing I was going to say? I was
going to say, and in that case, kind of similar thing where announcements were being made on CTAF, but maybe weren't very clear, and didn't include all the information, didn't include distance sometimes, didn't include altitude, didn't include the intention that they just intended to do, to go missed. They weren't actually landing full stop. So.
You're talking about?
No, I'm talking about the that situation that I had a couple weeks ago.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but same thing, there was some missing information. If you don't have the full picture, you can't figure it out. I mean, for me, it's easy enough just to stay clear.
The more information that you can convey in your communications, the better. I mean, you don't want to go on and do a whole dissertation because, then you clog the frequency up. But, I mean, that's just, I don't know. Camacho, what did you think of the CTAF comm of the King Air? I mean, I didn't think it was out.
I agree that by the letter of the law, they were not saying every specific word that they could have been saying, but I mean, it seems like there is plenty clear communication. You know, to me, that's the biggest thing is like being aware that there's somebody else out there. Like the FAA publishes all this information on uncontrolled airports. Very little of it is regulatory, right? Like the direction of the pattern is regulatory, but they say you should enter a pattern this way. And if you don't enter it that way, you should enter it this way. But the reality is you can kind of enter a pattern anywhere. Not always a good idea, but also can't be held accountable to a regulation, I don't think, for that. But, you know, if everyone's talking and talking succinctly and effectively, it seems like it always works pretty well.
And this is another case too where you could always ask for repetition. You know, you could say, confirm your landing runway 10. Oh, you're landing 28. Okay, that's a different story. You know, you should be able to have that kind of communication back and forth.
Yeah. So when I was looking at this, I thought, Jeff was thinking that they thought the guy was landing the other way. I guess what I took from these comments is maybe they construed the King Air when he was saying landing 10. They were thinking he was landing. He was 10 miles out from landing rather than landing on runway 10. So that's why they came back a minute later and said, "Oh, we thought you were 8 or 9 miles out because you were 10 miles out at this point." To me, you know, as a person who's operated a lot in uncontrolled environments, as a single pilot, it makes me wonder how that could happen in a multi-pilot crew. When you basically got an extra person in there to either check the guy who's running the show or manage the communications, or however they balance it, you know?
To me, it's one of those things where it seems like there were assumptions made without verifying. And I do think that the clearance void time was definitely an external pressure in this case, where they were just ready to go and wanted to get off the ground. And, there was a King Air out there, but they're like 10 miles out. So we don't even see them on TCAS yet. So let's just go ahead and go without verifying that information. Even though the King Air is calling back saying, are you departing 10? Do you see us? Are you going to make The
King Air crew were, in my opinion, were fully aware of what was happening
Yes.
and what was potentially going to happen, and the potential misunderstanding that the JetBlue crew had. They maybe could have done something like, "Hey guys, we're landing to a opposite direction of 10." That doesn't mean that the blame should be put on them. Obviously, the blame goes on the JetBlue crew for having that expectation bias. But Captain Nick, I think you'll agree with me as far as airline crew operations are concerned. You're pushing back within 6 minutes of the time that you're starting your takeoff roll. That is darn
That's
quick.
fast.
There are a lot of things happening on the pushback.
Yep.
Or maybe a little bit more than that, more like 12 minutes or something like. But it was quick. It was like, we're pushing back, we're starting engines, we're coordinating with Denver Center to get our clearance, making the PA to the flight attendants to prepare the cabin for takeoff, waiting for their call. We're running checks for after start, taxi check, before takeoff checklist, radios blaring, a lot of people talking, a lot of airplanes coming in. I think that they set in their head that everybody's using 10. That's the active runway. That the fact that even though it was said by the King Air crews several times that they were coming in on 28, it just never was it in their heads. They never got it. They never expected them to be coming in opposite direction. So,
that's exactly right. And that is a very high workload situation on the flight deck for the JetBlue crew. I don't think it's any excuse, but almost all of that involves both pilots. They're doing challenge response checklists, so they're both involved, both checking. They're both listening to their departure clearance. It certainly was on our airline that it was a requirement for both of you to listen and confirm what clearance you'd received. And so a lot of that time they're out of the loop. And this is where I sort of come back to the King Air crew and their non-standard calls, you might only get 1 or 2 of those calls from the King Air, whereas he said more or less the same information, like a countdown of his approach to 2.8 multiple times. So he's now sort of going, well, I've said it several times now, I'm going to abbreviate this one a little bit. So I can understand why the FAA want you to put out a standard call every time, because the other incident aircraft, it might be the only call they hear. So it might, a non-standard call might just be the one bit of confusion it needs to set up all the funyuns in the wrong place.
I'll tell you what, though, if I'm in that King Air and I see an airliner departing, opposite direction of me, I'm probably going to break off my approach and figure out something different to do.
Completely
I would not
with
have
you there,
continued that.
Steph. Yeah, indeed. But I put the blame firmly in the JetBlue flight deck. What's more, if they know there's an aircraft down, they can't see it on TCAS, and they're not absolutely certain they know where it is. They haven't picked it up visually. They know it's about to land on their runway. Then what the hell are they doing taking the runway? Because even if they got it right and it was landing on 10, they've just put themselves on the threshold of a runway that's about to be used. What are they?
Captain Nick, their clearance void time was about to expire, and that's the end of the world.
And I have to ask the question: why is there only a 2-minute limit on this clearance void time? It gives the crew no flexibility, and it immediately puts them under a time pressure. Is it absolutely necessary to have it only 2 minutes, or was that something the controller dreamt up? I'll just give them 2 minutes because it's more convenient for me.
Well, there are multiple inbounds to that airport on instrument flight rules plans. They can't. I don't know what the radar situation is, but they have to have like the timing and spacing just right for all those operations to occur. I'm guessing. I don't know.
Okay.
All they right. Also, the JetBlue crew also said they were ready for departure, like meaning we can go.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe the controller thought
what
this
does
is
happen?
what they want.
What happens if they call back and said, somebody cut us off and we didn't make our time?
We'll get a different void time.
Right?
Yeah, then they say, well, let me get another time for you.
Yeah, nothing. You just call back, say, hey, we couldn't do it. There was
we understand your
traffic.
Point. Camacho. Yeah, it's not a major.
No, I'm not being facetious. I don't know. I've never had a clearance void time. I don't know how that system works.
Yeah, they'll just give you a new one. It's not a big deal. It might be, now you got to wait 15 minutes.
And it depends on the situation. There are times when, like airport, like you're going from Greenville, Spartanburg to Atlanta, and if you miss your void time, then it might be a half an hour before they have another slot for you to kind of fit in.
I've been a passenger in that situation, probably going from like Charlotte to Atlanta, like needing to de-ice or something, and we missed the void time, and then it's another 20 minutes. You know?
And then you got to go back and de-ice again.
But in this situation,
exactly.
They're going to Fort Lauderdale. That's a long flight. It's obviously has nothing to do with what's happening later on.
No.
What's
it's
happening
just
right
the
now
local environment.
Is the local environment. I think that was the pressure, the time pressure for the controllers there. The other thing I wanted to mention, and Nick, you probably picked this up, Captain Nick, they say, the book says on the Airbus 320 that if you suspect a tail strike, do not pressurize the aircraft and don't go any higher than 10,000 feet.
Absolutely. Now, this was going to be my next point, because it kind of leads me into the thought processes that are going on the flight deck. Were they suddenly aware now that they had made a big mistake, and were they absorbed by that, or were they a bit behind the ball on all of this? So I just wondered, did they both get enough rest? Were they both properly prepared for the flight? But basically throwing the tail strike checklist out of the window, not doing it, having had and confirmed from their cabin crew that they had a tail strike, climbing above 10 and allowing the aircraft to become pressurized, and then continuing to 31,000 feet. Oh, excuse me. No, not in a million years, please. Because if you've damaged the pressure bottle of the fuselage and it's weakened just sufficient for at 31,000 feet for you to have a massive decompression, you're putting the lives of everyone on board at risk.
Absolutely.
So one thing I thought there is definitely know excuse for climbing to 31,000 feet, but going through 10,000 feet, that airport's at 6,600 feet. So it seems like they would have passed that 10,000 foot threshold
pretty
quickly. But
Yeah.
also seems like they would have known about a tail strike very quickly also.
Like the moment it happened
Yeah.
Yeah.
in most cases.
Yeah.
Obviously, they suspected it because they called the flight attendants to say, "Hey, did you hear anything?" Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had one other quick question. The way I read this, the JetBlue flight started their takeoff, and then it says, let's see, it says the captain, the pilot monitoring asked the pilot flying if the King Air was on runway 28. The captain, the pilot flying, asked, "Is he?" To which the pilot monitoring said, "Yeah, he's on 28. Do you see him?" To which the pilot flying said no. So at this point, they have been talking and neither of them see him visually, right?
Mm-hmm.
After event, the JetBlue first officer explained that he observed traffic directly ahead on the TCAS and pointed it out. So is the captain's action to make this abnormal departure from the Earth based on him looking at the TCAS? Or is he just making that realization that it's a opposing direction deal? And
I believe he did that off the TCAS information, which I think is a bit rash. Because the result is about an incredibly badly damaged aircraft. What he could have done instead, I'm not absolutely certain. If he'd held it on and rotated and got airborne at the normal position and then did his jink, would he have still missed the King Air? Probably, yeah. But if the King Air, of course, had taken avoiding action the same direction that the 320 did, they might have still met in the air. But I'm with you. Unless the King Air's on the runway and you can see him, I don't see the point of dragging the back end of the airplane along the runway for 1,000 feet while you try and heave off to get over him, because you can't even see him. He's in the air. Doing this maneuver is actually no use at all.
That was my thing. Is a King Air is not a small airplane. It's not a big airplane, but it's also not a small airplane. Mm-hmm. And it seems like if you can't even see them yet, it seems rational to think that you would have a chance to miss them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think a lot of it has to do with the startle effect. When finally the realization that, oh crap, this guy's coming in opposite direction. We should have known that, but we never, our brains never acknowledged it. And so I think it was just a snap reaction by the captain just to start rotating and just getting the airplane off the runway and away from because he couldn't see him, and so he didn't know how close he was, except for the rough estimate from the TCAS. I mean, we all know TCAS ADS-B, it's not like to the millisecond accurate. It's generally pretty close, but when you're talking about inside of a couple of miles, you're not really sure exactly where that blip, where the airplane is, as far as whether or not it matches up with that.
Yep.
Right. There's also no positive identification of airplanes, right? Just because you hear someone saying they're on final for a runway, and then you see a blip saying it's on final for that runway, you don't know that the airplane you're talking to is the blip that you're looking at.
There's no
you should get the call sign indicating on ADS-B, but
on ADS-B, but I think
no.
Our TCAS displays in the airliners don't have that information.
No. That's why I love my ADS-B.
Oh, you have that information.
I love my ADS-B.
Well, I mean, I think
that information. I've got.
That's good.
Yeah, all the info. It's good.
Sweet. All right. Well, good job, JetBlue. I mean, it was a bad day for those guys.
Yeah.
Again, that's just, I guess the danger here is that, you just have to, I don't know, what do you say? You just got to clear up your brain and slow things down a little bit. Don't get yourself into a time pressure situation. And if you can't like actually physically, visibly, see the airplane that could be a conflict, then just stop and count to 10, and say, what are we doing here? I don't know where this airplane is.
That's a great point. But then again, I never had to operate in this kind of short haul environment where you're doing multiple sectors, and a few minutes delay is going to hit you throughout the entire day. So I kind of get a feeling for it. But for me in long haul, we would never have really thought about doing this. Because 10 minutes extra on the ground. Yeah. Well, it doesn't matter.
All right. Yeah. Steph, we've been waiting for you to be here with us so we could cover this news item.
I know. In fact, I even thought we had covered it. I was like, didn't we do this?
I believe Radio Roger mentioned that we were covering it last week.
Oh, okay.
But did not
because I had. No, I did turn up. Liz is accusing me of not showing up last week. I did show up. I just did not have a working
technically
track. I had computer issues. I couldn't use my computer. Anyway, it's usable now. All right, so this is from the Daily Beast. What is that? .com? Yeah, dailybeast.com. Pilot sentenced for decapitating wingsuit skydiver with plane's wing. This was sent in by Radio Roger as well as Dean Yoder, and Dean says, "Hey, I'm a first officer at Acme's regional airline, Acme Junior. I saw this article and would love to hear the crew talk about it, especially with Steph being a jumper dumper as well. My favorite podcast of all time." That's brownie points right there. Yep. Thanks, Dean Yoder. Alrighty, I'm gonna go to where we get into the meat of this because it just kind of
that's an unfortunate choice of words.
I don't know. Is there much meat in the head?
There's no meat in your head. Come on now. All right, I'll read the whole thing. A pilot in France found guilty of involuntary manslaughter after he decapitated a skydiver with the wing of his plane in a midair collision was given a suspended sentence and banned from flying for a year. The Montalban criminal court's ruling came in the case of Nicolas Galli, 40, who was killed during a wingsuit jump in July of 2018, so a number of years ago. Galli, an experienced skydiver and engineer, died just moments after he leapt from the plane. The pilot has not been identified, but was named in previous reports about the accident as Alain C. The Midi-Pyrénées Skydiving School Association, which employed the pilot, was given a fine of about $22,000 by the court, though half of the penalty was suspended, Le Parisien reports. So what happened? On July 27, 2018, Galli was the first of two wingsuiters to jump from a single-engine aircraft over Boulogne in Quercy, north of Toulouse in southern France, according to the Times. Both jumpers left the plane at around 14,400 feet. This is just a stock photo if you're looking at the video or images.
Well, hang on a minute. That bloke hasn't got a head.
It's perspective.
Well, from my perspective, he hasn't got a head.
Fair enough. Within seconds, however, Alain C's plane caught up with both skydivers around 1,000 feet into their descent. At that point, both skydivers had completed their initial free fall and were gliding with their webbed wingsuits. Oh man, I have so much issue with the terminology used in this article, but that's fine. We're going to ignore that and move on. It was during that stage of the jump that the left wing and a strut of Alain C's plane hit Galli, decapitating him. Galli's emergency parachute deployed and his headless body drifted down to a field. At previous court hearings,
was that really necessary for him to say?
I told you I'm reading the whole thing here. Reading the whole thing.
I know, but that's not your fault. I'm just saying the journalist. Why? Okay, we get it.
I have a lot of problems with the terminology in general used in this, as it regards to technical aspects of wingsuiting and skydiving, flying, and apparently also decapitation events. At previous court hearings, the pilot said he hadn't briefed the 8 parachutists and 2 wingsuiters who were aboard what was his 4th jump flight that day. He also said he'd lost visual contact with the wingsuiters after they jumped and assumed he was clear of them. Compared with parachutists who are in free fall, it's more complicated with the wingsuiters who go more in a straight line, the pilot said. They don't descend much and can be in conflict with the aircraft. He went on to claim that Galli did not follow the expected course and should never have been on that course. It wasn't my responsibility, the pilot said. I think my flight plan made sense. This has been the tragedy of my life, but I am not at fault. LANC also admitted, though, that his license was not valid at the time of the jump because he'd violated restrictions imposed by an aviation authority in connection with a medical condition. In addition to voluntary manslaughter, he was found guilty of operating without a valid aeronautical license. Emmanuel Franck, a lawyer for Galley's family, said there was a lot of recklessness or negligence in the case. The president of the court also highlighted a failure of communication between the pilot and the victim. So that is the article.
So is this common, Steph?
No.
Oh, okay.
This doesn't happen.
How do wingsuiters normally kill themselves?
Well, usually it's in base
Jumping
jumping.
out of airplanes.
No, usually it's
I
jumping.
think
Not,
it's- I
usually
think
it's not
it's
jumping from
CFIT,
airplanes.
yeah.
Usually it's CFIT. Yeah.
Okay.
So in this case, Liz, you can put that picture back up there again if you would like. So for those who are watching the video, that's a caravan, and that's a wingsuiter leaving a caravan. They were not flying a caravan. I believe they were flying a Pilatus Porter, which has a very different descent characteristic. Generally, they can descend very slowly and very steeply, and they can fly, basically match the descent profile of a wingsuiter. There's actually a pretty famous stunt that was done by the Red Bull, some Red Bull wingsuiters and pilot, where they actually started a base jump, but then caught up to the Porter and were able to land back inside the airplane, going through the door of the airplane while they were matched in their descent rates, just to give you an idea of how steeply and slowly that aircraft can descend. I fly a caravan, not exactly like this one, but similar, and typically not typically, always, we outrun the wingsuiters by a large margin, even when they're always going to be last out, unless there's a couple probably special instances where that wouldn't happen, but they're going to be the last out. I watch them as long as I can and haven't been given a different direction to fly by ATC, which sometimes also happens. But very quickly, we're ahead and below on the descent profile. We descend at 160 knots roughly, and they're not going to get anywhere near that speed.
Steph, does that mean you actually have to go past them, through there?
They're behind us always. Always behind us.
Okay.
Once they leave the aircraft, they're behind our descent path, and they can't catch us.
So as long as you descend straight ahead, you're always going to be safe.
Straight ahead, and typically our wingsuiters are going to fly kind of a rectangular pattern to stay within the area based on what the winds are doing. So once they exit the aircraft and they're stable, they'll fly straight for a moment, but typically then they're going to turn left or right. If there's multiple wingsuiter groups, they're going to go in opposite directions and different widths, and they've all talked about that and communicated that. Everything typically is pretty coordinated in that fashion. We know what we expect them to do because that's what happens. And most of the time we're going straight ahead, and then we're, like I said, it's the aircraft that I fly, we're never going to be in conflict because they're always going to be behind us and slower than us. Or we're on the ground well before they ever get anywhere near to the landing area.
Cool.
But the Porter's a little bit different. I don't have any Porter time. I've watched a few of those videos. There's definitely more than one video out there depicting that type of stunt or attempt at stunt where the wingsuiters are trying to re-enter the door of the aircraft. I don't know what their intention was in this case. It's very strange to me that they could end up ahead of the aircraft, even though I don't have enough familiarity with that aircraft to know how those descent patterns look. I've never seen that. So.
All right. Well, you're the only one here on the panel that has any kind of a experience.
Yeah, and now I actually, as of last weekend, have 4 wingsuit jumps myself under my belt. So that was new.
Yes, I saw the picture.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah.
How was that?
Joined the dark side. It's awesome. It's really cool. It's definitely a learning curve. It's something new. There's a lot of surface area there to learn how to manage and control effectively, but a lot of fun.
Yeah, Steph looks like one of those little cuddly sugar gliders, Yeah,
but in the first wingsuit jump course that I did, the instructions are as you exit the aircraft before you're going to watch the airplane's going to fly ahead of you and away from you before you're even open into your suit for our newer wingsuit jumpers. So there should never be any conflict.
Well, since we have our doctor on staff here today with us, we're going to skip to the 01E.
Micah had a question that Liz put up there. Can you tell us a little bit? It says, just since it was up there, I'll answer it because it'll be fairly quick there. He asks, can you tell us a little bit about what it feels like jumping in a wingsuit as opposed to standard skydive? So with wingsuiting, there's a lot of, standard skydiving is basically vertical motion, vertical speed. The wingsuit adds in that horizontal component to it. So you definitely notice the flying effect of it. And there's a lot of, you have a much more of a sense of how you're controlling your flight path, at least for me. I think some of the better skydivers, better than myself, who do a lot of angle flying and movement jumps, which is a thing as well, have a good sense of their movement across the ground. But it's really interesting to see from a wingsuit perspective. You're watching the terrain, you're watching where you're going. Obviously, where I'm jumping, I'm very familiar with the area, but it's definitely talked about in terms of navigation. It's a long-standing joke that wingsuiters end up landing off-site not infrequently because they lose track of where they're going navigation-wise, and they don't make it back to their intended landing zone, or they have a long walk. So that's the main difference. I mean, it's definitely much more forward horizontal motion as opposed to just vertical motion.
Is it a natural sort of I'm Superman kind of feel when you're flying?
As long as you're doing it well, yes. There's actually a lot more that goes into it in terms of arm position and leg position and making sure that everything's stable and symmetric. A lot of the first couple jumps just focus on being stable in the wingsuit so that you're not spinning, turning unintentionally, and that when it's time to deploy your parachute, you do that symmetrically as well so you don't end up in a bunch of line twists.
Right. Interesting.
All right. Since we have our doctor on staff with us today, we're going to cover 1E, which is from the source Paddle Your Own Canoe. I was hoping we'd get to one of those today. 3 U.S. senators have written to FAA Administrator Michael Whitaker to urge the agency to force airlines to carry EpiPen auto-injectors in their emergency medical kits, arguing that good fortune has so far prevented passengers from dying from a mid-flight anaphylactic shock. EpiPens contain a life-saving dose of epinephrine, which can quickly reverse the effects of anaphylactic shock and, importantly, can be administered by lay people without any prior medical training. At present, however, the Federal Aviation Administration only requires airlines to carry single-dose vials of epinephrine, which must be administered by a trained medical professional with a syringe. The current rules haven't been updated since 2004. Some airlines voluntarily carry EpiPens, or the generic equivalent, in their medical kits, but many carriers, including Southwest Airlines, don't. Even airlines that do carry EpiPens could stop at any moment because they're not required to have them. Having an epinephrine auto-injector available is especially crucial in a setting like an airplane where emergency medical personnel may not be present or immediately available, wrote Senators Elizabeth Warren, Chuck Schumer, and Edward Markey in their open letter. The senators noted that in many onboard emergency and medical incidents involving a severe allergic reaction, passengers had the good fortune of having a medically trained seatmate on board who could administer epinephrine.
Epinephrine.
Yeah, this one is just, epinephrine. Oh, that's exactly what is spelled there. Epinephrine from okay, let me read that sentence again. The senators noted that in many onboard emergency medical incidents involving a severe allergic reaction, passengers had the good fortune of having a medically trained seatmate on board who could administer epinephrine from a single dose vial. But they warned we cannot continue to rely on good fortune to protect the 2.9 million passengers on every one of the 45,000 daily airline flights in the United States. Okay, so you get the gist here. That's a good idea, don't you think, Steph?
I think it's a good idea. I mean, it's something that takes up, almost no space in a medical kit. It can be used by laypersons. They can be pricey, but what's the value that you put on that for something that could be, if you can head off a life-threatening event with minimal amount of training from bystanders?
What do you think the chances are that airlines will voluntarily have these on board because
About zero.
it wasn't made a rule in the Reauthorization Act.
Yeah, about zero.
Okay. Good. What you're saying is there's hope.
There is hope, yeah.
Can I ask a stupid question? This stuff, epine frine, or however you pronounce it, do they have it on trains?
I don't know. No idea.
Yeah, you see, it's all very well to club with the airlines yet again, saying, you've got to have this drug on board and that drug, and but, if you're halfway between a long-distance rail line stations, you could be in an equally difficult situation on a train.
True, although I think in this country specifically, the volume of passengers on airliners is significantly higher compared with long-distance train or bus rides. Not saying that makes that any different if you're the unlucky person on the long-distance train or bus ride who has an anaphylactic reaction, but just, the statistically, the possibility that it could happen on an airline is probably greater just from the amount of passengers, volume-wise.
What? Yeah, I don't know if you know the percentage or not, the stats on this, but the people that would be most likely to need one of these EpiPen administrations, would they probably the percentage is a high one that people already know that they're allergic to certain things?
I don't know the percentage. You have to have experienced the allergy. There's always a chance that either you develop a new allergy, kind of rare, or you just haven't come in contact with whatever the particular allergen is in your life. Probably more commonly that would happen with someone younger. But I'm not sure of the exact percentages.
Interesting. No, I'm all in favour of it. We had them on board our aircraft, so we were the good guys.
I'm experiencing
symptoms.
A wonderful feeling in my heart being with my friends. I thought I was muted. Hang on. Well, as long as I've just interrupted you like that, I might as well just keep going. I was going to say I'm experiencing some audio interruptions here, and I think it's maybe my signal. I think I only have 260 megabits per second down.
Oh dear, is that all?
Yeah, I don't understand this. There's something going on with the computer, I guess. I don't know.
Everything's been fine on my end.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to hear.
Haven't noticed anything.
A little background hum from somebody, but
probably me.
It might be my refrigerator.
Might be me.
Oh, you're talking about. Oh, I thought you were. See, I didn't even understand what you said because the audio coming in to me is garbled.
It's so garbled.
Oh,
yeah.
Interesting.
It might be you, Jeff, because every time you stop speaking, it increases in volume. It sounds like someone who's using an auto volume control.
Yeah, I'm not.
Oh, okay.
I get so tired of this. Yeah, because I have, and I have directly connected to my router, via Ethernet, and outstanding speed. So I don't know what's going on with my machine, but it seems like it's stabilized. All right, so I guess we wrapped that up then. The EpiPen?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, so just to be clear, all in favor of having it. I think it's, potentially very high reward for, I'm all in favor of it. I know Nick is too.
Yeah.
I think
I put my hand up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on then with H. This is from the Aviation Safety Network. There was an accident in the Asheville, North Carolina area just a few days ago, 14th of December, involving a Diamond DA-40 November Golf Diamond Star operated by Lift Academy. They crashed on I-26 while on approach to Asheville Regional Airport. Circumstances unknown. The aircraft declared emergency shortly before the crash, stating they had an oil pressure and dual ECU, which is engine control unit failure. Now, the Diamond DA-40 is a single-engine airplane I think Austrian designed and built a couple places in the world. And I have some audio, and I just realized at this moment that I meant to kind of shorten it and snip out some stuff to play on the show, and I never got around to it. So I'm just going to hit the thing, and I'll advance to where I believe the Mayday call was made, and then we'll listen from there. So I think it's over here about 7 in, something like that. By the way, thank you to the person who included it in Slack. Maybe I'll quickly go over there and...
Oil approach, lift 907, Mayday, we've got oil pressure failure, looks like, and 2 ECU failures, we're coming in. Northwest of Asheville, it looks like we're losing all engine power, lift 907. We're dead ended.
I apologize for the long gaps here. And we're not getting ATC on these first transmissions, just the flight.
Keeping an eye out for the airport, not seeing it right now.
Yeah, they're north of the Asheville Regional Airport, I believe. Trying to make it back to runway 17.
1,100, yep, and yeah, we're coast to our best glide here.
Best glide speed they're maintaining. Trying to stretch it out as far as they can. And I think those airplanes are pretty good glide.
They are.
Angles or whatever.
Ratio.
Okay, roger, lift 907, and yeah, it looks like, honestly, with our best glide, we're probably not going to make it, so if there's anything else close by that you see that may get us some help, let us know.
That's pretty calm, pretty chill. That's the instructor, I believe. See why I was going to snip all this stuff out. Oh well. The best made plans. Trust me, there's
And
no...
approach, just to let you guys know, we've got our engine restarted. We just heard a big bang though, so we may lose it again here. We're going to try to put some altitude on it. We're trying our best. Looks like we got about half power, and we're getting some smoke in the cockpit here.
Yeah, smoke's not good. But half power, at least you have some power.
Asheville ground up 6.
Up 6 Asheville.
Which runway are you using right now?
Currently we're using runway 17. The aircraft is inbound to runway 17.
Roger, up 6 from Foxtrot. Let it go north on Alpha to Alpha 8.
Up 6 to the question.
Up 6 north on Alpha to Alpha 8.
Yeah, lift 927.
Oh, that's service on Alpha to Juno 3000.
I don't know what that was.
5 degrees to the right, front to Papa.
Another airplane. This will all be snipped out for the audio-only podcast.
2 souls on board, lift 907, and probably approximately 30 gallons of fuel.
That was the accident, or the, emergency airplane, I believe.
Asheville Tower, this is Rescue 2.
Rescue 2, Asheville, Tower, you can proceed northbound on taxiway Alpha.
apologize. I had someone else in the other ear for me. Can you say that again?
Rescue 2, Asheville Tower, you can proceed on to taxiway Alpha.
Proceeding on the taxiway Alpha, I'm going to be traveling north to the about Alpha 7, Alpha 8 area.
Rescue 2, that's approved, and the aircraft inbound is currently about 4 miles from the field. They managed to get their engine back up. They're at half power. 2 souls on board, 30 gallons of fuel.
Copy that. Thank you, Rescue 2. Sorry, Delta Bubba.
Tower Op 6 on Alpha 8 holding short runway 17. Is this next arrival correct?
Op 6, that is affirmative. That aircraft is the emergency inbound. They're about 3 miles north.
Roger, for Op 6.
Inside, we're going to probably have to put it down on the freeway here. Lift 907.
Right, 5430, we got to come back around those directions. You know, get a little late on that entry there.
Hearing from the radar room, the pilot's going to try to land on I-26. He's not able to get his engine back up.
Roger, for Op 6 and company here. Asheville Tower, Op 6, we're contacting Bunkum EOC right now.
Op 6, thank you.
907, we're about to touch down on the highway here shortly. Lift 907.
Okay, I think that's the end of
be it.
anything that's pertinent. So let me stop the playback of that. So my general impression of this, oh, by the way, I think that the outcome of this
It was good. Yeah.
was good. I think they were able to walk away from the airplane and then it caught on fire. And
Some injuries, and then there was a post-crash fire that they were safely away from.
Okay, were they serious injuries or?
I read one of the articles that said significant injuries, but non-life threatening.
Okay, good. Yeah. Okay. Let me find my window for. Okay. iHaul Boxes in our live audience says ECU failures seem to be a plague for Diamond aircraft. Seems like they are programmed to just shut everything off at the slightest anomaly. What do you think, Camacho?
Yeah, I mean it's that is a electrical, an ECU is an engine control unit. That is an electrical component that is not common on most general aviation airplanes. It has software loaded on it. It has a bunch of electrical components built into it, and it's basically a computer that it runs the engine, manages the engine parameters.
Kind of like a FADEC for a jet engine.
Yeah, basically. I mean, it's super common in cars, right? It manages timing and fuel injection and all that sort of stuff, but it's not super common in general aviation airplanes because it's just never really been. It's never really been adopted as a reliable source of output, I guess.
Okay.
I mean, 98%, that's a guess on my part. Most of the engines in general aviation airplanes are all magneto ignition, so fixed timing, either carbureted or mechanical fuel injection, so not controllable fuel injection. They're basically tractor engines without any modern controls. The downside is they don't run as efficient or as effective as modern engines with all that stuff. But the upside is they're a lot more reliable than things that require software and are continually changing parameters of the engine.
And being reliable is an important thing if you're in a machine that is above the
If you're in a
earth.
single engine airplane at night, reliability is desired. Yeah. Which is what these people were.
Yeah.
Single engine
Yeah, this
airplane.
happened at about 8:15 at night local time, I think. And it's in mountainous terrain. You know, they got real close. Where they put it down on I-26 is like the equivalent of one exit away from where the airport is, and the airport is immediately adjacent to the highway. Good decision on their part, you know, because it's just trees and stuff that you can't see otherwise if you're heading straight for the runway. Busy highway, I-26, and especially that stretch is always it's perpetually under construction. So, you know, a lot of lane closures and things like that, and it makes all kinds of fun. I haven't been up there in a little while on that stretch, but it's been under construction for forever, so I'm sure it still kind of is. It looks like there's some temporary barriers up there in the picture that we were able to see before. So, you know, good job on, you know, not managing not to hit any cars on the road, landing safely enough to be able to for egress from the airplane and being able to get away from it before that fire ensued.
And what did you think of the, I thought I'm assuming that it was an instructor pilot, student pilot situation.
It was, yeah.
And the instructor pilot is the voice that we hear on the radio. And I'm thinking, gosh darn it, I don't know if I could have been that calm and collected making those transmissions like he was. I mean, that was pretty amazing.
That was well done.
Yeah. Yeah. Neil
and I think what actually happened
in our audience says must be risky at night with overhead wires, signs, etc. Go ahead, Steph.
Sorry, I got ahead of you there. You were reading that comment. I'd read somewhere that they actually did clip a power line. Yeah. So.
Yeah, but the thing I thought of immediately, Steph, was it's dark and definitely high terrain in that area.
I've flown in there at night, and it's
many times.
Yeah, it's. You have to know where the terrain is for sure.
Yes, because it's just nothing but a bunch of black.
Yep.
You know,
it's not
a lot of lights.
There's not a lot of light. It's hard to see.
Yeah. All right, very good. And since we were talking about engines and engine efficiency and such, and of course, one of the requirements for an engine to operate at all, whether it be efficiently or not, is fuel. And there has been a move in general aviation to move away from what is it, 100 low-level fuel?
Low lead.
Low lead. Not level. You don't want low-level fuel.
Low-level lead. Low lead.
So I'm trying to find, why is this not moving to that article? I'm sorry. That's why I'm trying to.
Do you want me to start reading it?
Yes, please.
Okay, so this is this is an article from AvWeb, and it's titled "Santa Clara Airport's Fight to Keep Leaded Gas Out." Santa Clara officials are pushing back against the proposed legislation in the FAA reauthorization bills that would require them to reintroduce leaded aviation fuel. Calling it a step backwards for Santa Clara airports, Local News Matters reported local officials are actively opposing two bills in the House and Senate. The Senate bill mandates airports to continue offering the same fuel types used since 2022 until 2030, or until a widely distributed alternative is available. Meanwhile, the House bill version, which has already passed, requires airports to sell the same fuels available as of 2018. Should Congress pass the legislation, these bills would overturn the county's lead ban implemented in January 2022. While eliminating leaded aviation gasoline is a priority for GA advocates, it is clear stakeholders are urging caution until a viable alternative is available. However, several environmental activists are calling on local officials to follow Santa Clara County's precedent and eliminate 100 low lead from their airports. This week, the Santa Clara Board of Supervisors plan to ask the county's Federal Affairs Advocacy Task Force to explore local strategies to protect the county's authority to restrict the sale of leaded fuels, according to Local News Matters. For now, FAA reauthorization remains stalled. The House passed another reauthorization extension to fund the agency until March 8, 2024, while the Senate will need to vote on legislation before funding expires at the end of the month.
So what do you think here? Do they really want, they don't want that airport there at all, do they?
Santa
Clara County.
I think that's part of it, right? There's a bunch of things at play here. Airplane engines are designed to run on, the way that airplane engines operate and the compression ratios that most of them operate at. They require something in the range of 100 octane fuel. And basically the reason the lead is in the fuel, tetraethyl lead is what's in the fuel, and it uses an octane booster. And it's, all the technical mumbo jumbo is basically the makeup of 100 low lead minimizes or reduces the possibility of detonation, which is when an engine operates, you want this like continuous, smooth, nice burning of the fuel, right? And if things start going awry, you'll get detonation, which is basically an explosion in the chamber. And what that results in is breaking high temperatures, breaking engine components, and that sort of thing. So we use lead to help reduce the detonation possibility, I guess, is the way to say that. I think it's pretty. So there are a lot of people that are hesitant about getting rid of the lead in avgas. I think that the number of people that are actually just like, the lead doesn't matter, just leave the lead alone. I think that number is very small. I think the large minority of pilots, of which I am a part of, is
large majority.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Is that lead is annoying and gross. Like we know that it's bad for you. It's hard. It's a non. There's some number more than zero, right? That it is detrimental to people. It's hard to associate exactly the impact on people because there are so many variables. Putting all the health aspects of it aside, which I'm not an expert on, just operating a leaded fuel engine, which I'm also not an expert on, but know more about, it's gross. It fouls plugs. It runs dirty. It's like if we had an option to run a fuel that had lead or run a fuel that didn't have lead, I would rather run a fuel that didn't have lead. But going back to what we were talking about with the ECU thing, we also have many, many, many decades of experience running these airplane engines on leaded fuels, right? First it was 100, 130, and then it was 100 standard lead, and then it was 100 low lead.
I remember back in the day when I was flying GA in my Wright Flyer that we were using leaded fuel as well.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, we're talking about 100 low lead now. They used, they had 130 octane fuels back in World War II when we were making tons of power out of really big engines. So we've made progress in the right direction, right? The problem is, as it gets harder to build confidence, right? Because not only do we have 80 years or whatever we have of flying on leaded fuels, I guess probably more like 100 years. I don't know when we started flying on leaded fuels, if it was back at the beginning, but it's a really long time. But, the sample sizes we're dealing with right now are a lot smaller because we have fewer people flying. So it's a shorter time duration and we have fewer people flying. And there are lots of people actively working on replacing the leaded fuels with unleaded fuels. The problem is there are some places that are like, we just want to get rid of leaded fuels. Mm-hmm. And the FAA even has a mandate. I think it's 2030 that they're trying to say that they want to have a complete coverage unleaded alternative fuel for general aviation. But the concern is if a place like Reed Hillview, which is a pretty significant general aviation airport right now, if they say, oh, you can't sell leaded fuel here anymore, and there's no option until 28 or 2030 to get back to a general aviation infrastructure there, you're just not going to get it back, right? Like that's what we found out time and time and time again is that, like, once you lose an airport or once you lose a GA portion of an airport, you can't get it back because there's either more money in cargo aviation, 121 flying, bizjet flying. Like, there's just more money in somebody who wants to operate a G4 than there is in somebody who wants to operate a 172. So it's hard to get that back. Additionally, the land is very valuable. So there's also people that want to get rid of the airport completely and, tear the airport down and just build 1,000 condos in place of the airport. So I think that blurs the lines. When people say like, oh, be careful, don't just take our leaded fuel away. I think there's a lot of people that aren't educated on it. And they're like, oh, those guys are just selfish. They just want to keep playing with their toys. That's not the case. And additionally, I think if people are not educated on the situation and they hear, oh, Reed Hillview wants to bring back leaded fuel, they don't care about the children that live near the airport. That's not the case either. We're making.
Yeah, but if an airplane falls on top of your children, that's not a good thing either.
Well,
that would be bad.
That's true. That's not a good thing. And I don't want to come out and say I'm a conspiracy theorist, but it is hard to understand without doing tons of research and investigation. It's hard to understand how far back, all of these proposals and governmental actions go. And, it seems totally plausible that at the end of that line, there's a deep pocketed developer maybe, or whatever, that is like, oh, I see an end for getting rid of the airport.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Jim Mercado, APG brand ambassador, lives in the area, and he said Reed Hillville Airport has been under attack by the surrounding. I'm sorry, what?
Reed Hillview.
Reed Hillview Airport has been under attack by the surrounding community for years. This is the latest front.
And sadly, I think there's a lot of general aviation airports out there that are constantly under attack because people in the surrounding community just don't understand the mission of general aviation. So there's always.
So Neil in our audience that we just read in one of his comments said, we've been running lead-free fuel for years over here, and well, so have our cars. What about your general aviation over in the UK and Europe? Are they on no lead fuel? I don't know. Does anybody know?
No,
sure,
I mean,
someone in the chat room.
No
we
idea.
were buying leaded gas when we were over there. So
I would assume it's 100 low lead.
Okay, so
or
they have
similar.
leaded gas over there too. So Neil, sounds like you guys are all in the same boat.
Yeah, I mean, I think Neil's asking, we made that transition in cars. Why can't we make that transition in aviation? And I think that's a valid question, and I think it's happening. I also think you have to keep in mind the economy of scale, right? It was an easier problem to solve with cars because you were dealing with lower octane engines. So most cars are running on 87 to 91 octane gas. So it's a lower octane engine, so it's an easier problem to solve. I think that helped. Additionally, I think the fact that there are, 1,000 times as many cars as there are airplanes, 1 million times. I don't know what the ratio is, but the economy of scale there made it much more desirable for companies trying to solve that problem to work on that problem, right? There's the amount of leaded fuel that's sold is not as large. So there's a longer payback period, so to speak, for solving that problem. The distribution network is a lot different. So whereas like with car gasoline, you have a gas station in every community and you have multiple gas stations in all the big communities. Aviation, it's scaled down a couple of orders of magnitude, right? Like for every 5 small communities, you may have 1 airport. And additionally, in big cities where you may have 30 or 50 gas stations, you may have 3 to 5 airports. So it's just kind of getting through that just kind of getting through that initial maze of sorting out all of the logistics of how to make it work and how to get it distributed and how to make it like reasonably affordable, right? Most of the people that I've either talked to or I've read articles about say, we want to get rid of the lead. We have no problem paying 10% more or $1 more a gallon or whatever it would be. But at the same time, you can't expect people to pay, say, 200 or 300% and have it be a viable solution, I guess.
I found an article in the University of Kent which mentions this, and it says you guys over there in the States are actually a bit of a leader in this field, because in the United Kingdom, indeed, we still put lead in our aviation fuel. And they say this problem is recognized by the EPA in the United States. It's received little attention in the United Kingdom, where we are indeed yahoos over here. And we find that the majority of aviation fuel sold in the UK is leaded. And there are 370,000 residences within 4 kilometres of a general aviation airport at risk from exposure to lead emissions. So, not an insignificant problem in a country with a large population, small area.
Yeah.
True. Yeah, and going back to like the scaling issue, right, or the volume issue, everybody operates on 100 low lead right now. And I just, in places like the UK, I don't think that there is enough of a market for airplane gas for a viable solution to be determined, to be created, right? Like a company, whether it costs $10 million or $100 million or whatever it's going to cost, it just seems like the United States is the most likely place for that to happen because we have so much general aviation activity over here. And then I suspect it'll like rapidly flow over to other parts of the world is how I would see that.
Yeah.
Ludger says there are STCs to run aircraft on unleaded fuel in Germany. Usually people take off and land on avgas in one tank and cruise on unleaded fuel in the other. Seems to work for them. That's true. The Luscombe that my dad has a STC to fly on unleaded gas, and you can operate it on car gas, which we've done. And that also goes back to the lead in the fuel, right? It fouls plugs, it causes valves to stick. I know a lot of guys with the little engines that don't need the lead, they'll mix car gas and avgas to lower the lead level even more to kind of minimize sticking valves. A lot of guys run car gas exclusively because the valves don't stick because there's no lead. I think there's only one manufacturer of tetraethyl lead in the world now. So that's another thing that makes people nervous that are running 100 low lead is if something happens to them. I think it's a UK company. I should have looked that up before we started talking about it, but they're always under attack from environmental organizations. And so there's some concern about if something happens to them and there's no viable means to get the tetraethyl lead element of the fuel.
Cut off.
Yeah. Then how do we continue to do that? So I feel like it's important to keep the narrative in mind that everyone wants to solve this solution. It's not just that like pilots are saying, don't take away our leaded gas. And the city is saying, you can't fly with leaded fuel here, so we're kicking you out. It's just it's a hard problem we have to solve.
All right. Well, we'll keep our eyes and ears open for any updates regarding that in the future. And now it's time for us to go to Getting to Know Us. Yay. It's my favorite part of the show. Not everybody's cup of tea, though. I'll tell you that. It's
Why did we receive some feedback about that?
we did.
Oh, okay.
Are we going to read it on the show?
Yes.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Absolutely. Yeah. When it's my turn to do getting. Do you want me to start it then? Okay. All right. Let's see here. Well, first, before I get to that, yes, I meant to mention this on earlier previous episode, you recall my little road trip that I did last month, and on the way back, I stopped in a little bit east of Asheville and got to spend the night in the Witherspoons Airbnb, and also had the opportunity to have a wonderful dinner with Tom and his family, and one of his daughters, one of his twins. I think I also mentioned that she's very creative, and she's a writer and an artist. And so she was, when we were after dinner and we were just having normal discussions, she was doing stuff on her iPad, drawing, I think it was an iPad, drawing some stuff. And it was the book cover for the NaNoWriMo competition. Anyway, Thomas sent this to me. He said, "Hi, Jeff. Since you were there when she started the design, I thought I'd share my proud Papa news that Sylvie's artwork was one of the chosen covers for the
Excellent.
cover art contest." And there it is on the in the video. We're showing
That's awesome.
that. Isn't that
Lots of
isn't that
talent.
amazing? And she actually wrote the book that goes with this cover.
Oh, yeah. Even better.
So very,
Good
very
job.
good talent. So
Excellent.
just wanted to make sure that I shared that with the community. And, I told him, I don't blame you for being a proud papa. That's awesome. That's our job, right? Yeah. Okay. So let's move on to this nice little piece of, now this is the interesting, maybe ironic thing. I'm covering this during the Getting to Know Us segment. So I'm not sure that the writer of this feedback is actually going to hear us read it and talk about it. So it says, "Jeff, I'm a newer listener. I only listen to about 75% of your content, but it's generally pretty good. I always skip over getting to know you. Listeners must like it or you wouldn't do it. But I think it's a little too self-serving and not worthy of my limited podcast time. Just another unsolicited opinion," he says. "I realize you can't cover everything, but if you didn't cover the PDX incident recently where 2 pilots and 1 air traffic controller all screwed up to one degree or another, I think you ought to revisit that one." Yeah, we did actually cover that one. Let's see, it was a fascinating confluence of issues leading to a dangerous situation. The incident where the wrong departing flight acknowledged the controller's instruction, the right flight missed the call, and the controller initially missed that the wrong aircraft responded. Yep. We recall that. What's that? I'm sorry.
Neil says, "Did opposing
something?
bases send this in?"
Oh yeah, they may have. I wouldn't put it past them. Those guys. And then so he goes, "That's all I got. I'm a double dinosaur, just for the record, old and seasoned, former private pilot, former PATCO controller, and worked BFL, which is Meadows Field and Bakersfield, back in the late 70s, early 80s. Bakersfield was at that.
BFL?
BFL.
Yeah, that's the airport code for
okay.
Bakersfield
Gotcha.
Airport.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Bakersfield
is the...
I thought it was the job he did. Okay.
Yeah,
Big.
Big,
yeah, big funny.
Bakersfield was okay.
Serious.
Bakersfield was at that time one of 3 remaining non-radar approach control facilities in the FAA's western region. That made for lots of stories and hair-raising situations, both in the winter when the Thule fog would set in for days at a time, as well as in the summer when we would accommodate dozens of training jet flights up from the LA basin in the waning days of the old GI Bill era, all conducting opposite direction approaches in VFR conditions. When we'd mix in the United and Hughes Air West traffic along with all the high performance guys, no one even gave consideration to stabilized approaches like they do now. Nothing crazier than instructing United 737 on downwind in the general aviation traffic pattern to turn a tight 2-mile base at the river at his best possible speed and cleared to land number 3 behind the 172. Something like that. Anyway, and that's how he ended it, John Selden. Now, so especially that last paragraph seems kind of like a little getting to know John segment.
Well, yeah.
Anyway.
Actually, I quite like quite like it. I'd like to get
I do too.
know John more, but obviously we can't because he
no.
doesn't like it.
So I think, he's an older gentleman. Podcasting is a relatively new thing. And I think personally, I'm kind of old myself. I'm going to turn 65 next week. The thing I love about podcasting is that it's different from everything that we were used to in the past, as far as radio programming, television programming. All that stuff is all one way. We can yell at our television or yell at our radio, but nobody's going to hear us unless we have somebody with us next to us that can hear our voice. But podcasting in general is a two-way street where communication it's both ways. We love hearing. In fact, we're hearing all kinds of things all the time when we're live recording the show on the platform that we use, and we see all these people in our live audience, communicating with us while we're doing the show. And then we have you sending in feedback, as you did, John. You're using this two-way street. You're sending us communication, and we love that. That's one of the great things that I think sets podcasting apart from other media, and it builds that community. I mean, if it weren't for this two-way street, there wouldn't be an APG community. There might be groups that are listening to our show, but it's not the community that we have now. And so I think that's an important aspect of podcasting. And then I wrote in my notes here, if you don't like a certain segment in our show, that's not a problem. That's the beauty of podcasting as well. That's why we take the time to create chapter markers. Of course, if you don't have chapter markers, then you can, fast forward or, reverse or whatever you need to do to get onto a section of the show that you think might be worthy of your limited podcasting listening time. And as a side note here, I know a lot of you out there listening to this right now are listening on Spotify or Pandora or TuneIn Radio, a lot of these streaming services. And sadly, they don't have the functionality of chapters and chapter markers and chapter marker images that we take a lot of time and effort to produce for people that are listening to our podcast on Apple Podcast, which kind of does a okay job with those things. Overcast is my favorite podcast player. I think they're on maybe they're just on the iPhone platform. I'm not sure about that. But anyway, there are a lot of great podcast players out there that will prominently show artwork when we're talking about it in the show. And as I said, I take the time, and Captain Nick takes the time to put these chapter images at the appropriate points when he's doing his plain tales for your convenience and enjoyment. And so if you are somebody who's listening via Spotify, Pandora, TuneIn, etc., you might consider getting one of these podcast players that support chapters, because I think you'll really. I'm sorry. Okay, Overcast is only iOS, but there are a lot of great. What's the other?
I use Pocket Casts. It's pretty good.
Pocket Casts.
Cast
Oh
is
yeah,
good.
I used Pocket Cast before Overcast. That's another great one, and that's multi-platform, I believe.
Yes.
And anyway, there are a lot of good ones out there that fully support chapter markers. And so, like, maybe you agree with John, and you go, I like the news and I like the feedback, but I don't like the getting to know us segment. Well, all you have to do is just with your list of chapter markers, just look for the one that says feedback, and you can skip right to that. So that's again, I'd be interested to hear from you all out there, if you find that is something that you benefit from, or if it's just something that you didn't even know was going on and you really don't care, the chapter markers.
Fast forwarding does work just as well. I do that in a lot of podcasts that have ads in the middle of them where there might not be a chapter marker.
That's another thing. Ads. Do you guys like ads in podcasts? I absolutely hate them. I really do. I mean,
yeah.
And I
don't mind. So I don't mind when they put them all at the beginning or all at the end, because then it's easy to get through them. And I appreciate that a lot of this is their source of income, and it's a part of their source of income, and they need that for the support of what they're doing in the show for various reasons. Totally get that. Sometimes I listen to them because I'm like, oh, that's an interesting product. Maybe I do want to know more about it. But most of the time I just fast forward through all of that. And especially if it shows up in the middle of the show.
It had been a long time since I'd heard or listened to Betty in the Sky. And I don't know, from the last time I listened to now, I mean, just a couple of days ago, I went, whoa, that thing's filled with all kinds of advertising in it. You know, good for her. She's making some money off her effort. We here tend to go for the value for value kind of method so we don't have advertisers at all. So we just rely on you, the listeners, to send us, contributions. And that way we keep the advertising down to like zero. And now if you're listening to something in some way of the show and you're actually hearing ads, let us know, because you're not supposed to be hearing ads. So I'd be curious to hear if that's something that is happening. And then finally, I wanted to say regarding this whole thing, if anyone out there knows how to integrate legacy chapter markers with podcasting 2.0 chapter markers, this is for the tech guys out there, let me know. Contact me. Let me know how I can do both, because podcasting 2.0 is a different set of podcast players out there that, from what I have experienced, don't see all the chapter markers that Nick and I are putting in there. You have to use like a different way of getting chapter markers in that. So anyway, you were saying something, Liz? Oh yeah. Speaking of
I just wanted to make one quick point on that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think it's great that everyone has differing viewpoints. I also think it's super convenient for John that he can get over his so easily. Because when I listen back to the show and I don't like Captain Nick, so I try to take all of his comments out, it's significantly more work than just like skipping ahead through one section. I'm trying to train my AI to do it for me, but I haven't figured it out yet.
I was going to say,
and iHall Boxer said when it becomes a 6-hour show, he might skip some chapters. I said I probably would too. Just take a nap.
Trust me, it's never going to be a 6-hour show. iHall Boxes. Because we just don't have enough time in our recording and post editing to do it. Even though I'm going to be retired very shortly. So Spotify, I just got this email the other day, Spotify for podcasters, and it said, "Oh, you have some, people answering your Q&A." And I went, "What Q&A? I have no idea what they're talking about." Apparently, when you have a podcast on Spotify, they'll generate this question at the end. And the question is, "What did you think about this episode?" I immediately went into the back end and said, "Nope, do not do that. I don't want you to ask that question to people who are listening on Spotify." Not that I don't care about what you think, but it's just like I don't have a very effective way of seeing these things. I just kind of stumbled upon this. One of the nice ones was from episode 597, Louisa Maria. She said, "I like this podcast and the episode was funny, but I have a question towards height requirements because I'm 1.54 meters and I would like to be a pilot. Does any airline require a certain height?" I'm not sure I have the information regarding that. Do you all know, anybody on the panel here, about if there's a minimum height requirement? I think 5 feet tall would be tall enough for the community itself. I think I've seen people walking around that were 5 feet tall, or maybe even under 5 feet, that were wearing pilot uniforms.
Yeah, I mean the average airliner usually has a highly adjustable seat and set of rudder pedals and controls. Fly Airbus, that'll probably be, perfect for you.
I'm sorry, I missed the question. Can you repeat it?
Is there a height limit for becoming an airline pilot?
If you're going to train in a 172, you're just going to have to get a cushion. But other than that, should be good.
How about flying a Boeing? Is there a height limit for flying a 737?
Not that I'm aware of.
I don't think so either, but there must be some kind of a limit. I mean, you can't, if you're 3 feet tall, which would be very unusual. I would imagine they'd probably say, no, can't do that. And then this last one from the last show, "Twatter in Your Trousers" was the title. George Riley writes in. He says, "I love aviation podcasts, but I've never heard so much dribble in all my life. APG used to be good years ago, but has deteriorated over the years to this dribble." I think he means drivel. I think I know what he's trying to communicate to me. He liked it back in the days when it was just me. So
yeah,
you
yeah.
guys,
He's saying you're brilliant. Everyone else is drivel.
No, I really don't think that's what he's saying. He's just saying he doesn't like it. But thank you very much, George Riley, for your feedback.
Yeah, indeed. Really appreciate that.
I did get some positive feedback from No Agenda, Liz. Thanks. That's a good segue.
Who think we've stopped?
Let's see where. Why can't I find the Evernote thing? Here it is. Okay. So I would just receive this from Tanya, one of our longtime supporters and listeners, Tanya in New York City, and she's also in our live audience in our chat room. And she sent me a text earlier today and said, "Hey, I heard it was a great shout out to APG at the very end of the last episode of No Agenda." And so they have something. They're a 2-day a week show, Sundays and Thursdays, and they also have a 24/7 stream that goes on. And APG was one of the podcasts in the world of podcasts that was selected to be on this stream. And honestly, I didn't even realize we were still on the No Agenda stream. But here's what Adam and John said at the last part of the last show on Sunday.
Coming up next on NoAgendaStream.com, we have, the Airline Pilot Guide. We haven't heard from him in a while.
No, that's good. That's a good show.
No, it's a very good show. It's one of the better aviation podcasts out there. And if you're at trollroom.io, you can listen in using the modern podcast app as well.
Now, I don't know. He kind of sounded like he was speaking in like after the fact, like that was a good show.
I was going to say,
he
also didn't say it was a good show. He just said it was one of the better aviation shows.
Well,
so that just means
hey,
we're
look,
above
I'll
50%, right? That's
Listen, 50% is all we're going for here. So
it's one of the better
perfect.
shows. I treat that as a win. And I think it's the only aviation podcast that's on the No Agenda stream. So there we go. There's a 50% guarantee right there. So I do appreciate Adam Curry, the guy that was speaking mostly in that little clip, is one of the podcasting pioneers. I mean, he was at one of the two people responsible for podcasting back way in the early years. So he is that people call him the Podfather. So, yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. I'll do that. Thank you, Liz. And finally, before we move on to somebody else, just a warning to the network affiliates. This show might run a little bit longer than the normal 3 hours. But hey, last time it was only a little over 2 hours, so we got some slack, right? So I received something from a communication from Greg Peterson. You'll remember Greg used to be one of our big ass fans. Now he's just a big fan. No big ass in there. That's a company that makes these big giant fans, if you're wondering, just to kind of keep this family safe. He is now working for an aerospace company that makes big engines and big jet engines, and he's very happy. I guess you could say they're big ass fans in a way. Anyway, he said he was going to be doing a business trip coming through Atlanta, going out to LA, and then coming back through Atlanta back up to Cincinnati. And so I said, let me see if I can maybe coordinate it so that when I needed to hand in a couple of items, because next week will be my last day as a Delta Airlines pilot. And that'll be my birthday, the 26th of December. And so I went in on Friday afternoon before everybody left the chief pilot's office and handed in my ID card, my Delta ID card, and my iPad, my EFB that they wanted back. I was kind of hoping I'd get to keep it, but they wouldn't let me keep it. And then they said, didn't you just have an anniversary? And I said, yeah. No, it's actually today. So the day of my 35th year anniversary or Deltaversary at Delta Airlines was that day, the 15th of December. I started in 15 December 88 and 15 December 2023 was 35 years. So they handed me this little box, and I don't know, are you showing that right now, Liz? Okay. There's I kind of opened up the little box there, and it's a little lapel pin with little little chips
3
of
diamonds. Wow.
Well, yeah, it must be worth a fortune. I'm
absolutely got to be at least a carat
years.
there.
Anyway, yeah. Well, you know what? I'm just happy that they what now? Yeah, I didn't hear the first part of your comment. I know.
She said, "Why isn't there a half diamond for 35 years?"
Okay, that's the part I
diamond
missed. Thank you.
Yeah, 10 years.
I don't know. But
So
I
is that
think
solid gold, Jeff?
No, Nick, it's not solid gold.
Oh.
No, it's just a cheap metal, gold-colored metal. I think. Maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, so 35 years and got this stupid T-shirt. All right, so that is. But anyway, the good part about that is that a couple hours later, I met Greg Peterson coming in to gate B23, and we had a nice. As he came off the airplane, I said, "I'm inviting you, a formal invitation here to join me in my 35 Delta anniversary dinner." And so we went up to went over to the B Spine and had a nice meal at Sam Adams Brew House, and yeah, cheered or toasted my 35-year airline career.
Excellent, well done.
Then he went on his way back up to Cincinnati, and I drove home. And as I mentioned a few times already on this show, on the 26th of December, I turned into a pumpkin, not literally, but I turned 65 years old, and Part 121 here in the U.S. and in other places around the world, you are no longer allowed to pilot scheduled airliners. I could do other flying. I mentioned it in previous shows, but my decision not to do that. But so there you go. That was a lot more than I usually talk about, and of course I did my normal singing as well. So there you go. So who wants to go next? Okay, Nick Camacho, would you like to tell us what you've been up to?
Yeah. I don't remember if I was on. I don't think I was on the last show, but
no.
My over the last weekend, my wife and I traveled out to California for my company Christmas party. So yeah, we were able to go out there for a few days, child free, and see a bunch of our friends. Obviously, go to my work party. It's a nice thing that my company does. We have a handful of remote employees, and so they always fly in the remote employees and their spouses. But since we lived there previously, my wife actually, has some friends within the spousal network of our company already. So she enjoys going out there and seeing those friends, as well as my airport friends and a bunch of our family that lives in Napomo. So we made the rounds out there. And outside of that, I've just been at home working. We also, while we were out there, we got notification of a pretty significant program milestone, I guess I'd say, at work. That's going to lead into next year, which is super exciting, but is also going to result in a lot of work. So we're getting going on that. Been trying to get ahead of the 8 ball a little bit there before everyone kind of disappears for the holidays. And any news about my engine? My engine is ready to go in the airplane. I was trying to get it in before we went to California. And
that's what she said.
Family show. And I ran out of, I was about 1 day short. And then we got back Monday, and the last couple of days I've been helping my folks with a couple things and getting ready for Christmas. We've all of my siblings are descending upon my folks' house, so I've been helping them get ready a little bit. But if everything goes to plan, I'm taking tomorrow off, and hopefully through the weekend we'll be able to get that thing in. But it's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back every time we do anything. So there's probably 3 to 5 days of
shoving and pushing and
issues that I have to work through that I haven't found yet. Yeah.
Well, we hope you get that in.
Yep.
Yeah. And I hope it feels nice when it is.
Man, he's on a roll.
Just couldn't leave it alone.
Captain Nick's already checked out for the holidays.
Well, it's bound to feel nice when you've finished all that hard work.
I'm hoping that they had a nice selection of Zinfandels there at your party.
Yeah, it was actually at a wine. Yeah. It was at a wine bar on the beachfront there in Avila. So it was very nice, and the weather was tremendous.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a good time.
It's one of my favorite grapes.
Oh, is Liz actually speaking out loud, or am I just?
No, she's just saying that to us in our little ears. But everybody's listening to the podcast can hear her.
Liz, thank you for the invitation to speak next. I've been to the Christmas Carry, which is the most amazing annual event that occurs amongst podcasting royalty in the UK. So if you'd like to play the audio, Liz, it all will come clear.
Or how about me? I can do it.
Oh, okay. Jeff, off you go, mate.
Yep. Here we go.
Jeff, hi. This is Nick, and we're at the the podcasting. I don't know. We're at Spice Village, but this is the Christmas Curry of all the UK podcasters that mean anything. And of course, the king amongst us is Pilot Pip with his, smack on the nail every week, his fantastic podcast full of interest and fun. So first thing I'm going to do is hand you over to him, and he's going to tell you about what has been happening in his world. Hang on a sec, I'm just trying to untangle myself. Here we go. Hi, Pip.
Oh, hi, Nick. Ho, ho, ho. Merry Christmas, everybody. Yeah, the UK's premier podcasts are all represented here. What's happened to ours? Well, as Al said slightly earlier, once our Patreon fund gets down to $20,000 or so, then we'll do another podcast. But until then, we're fat, dumb, and happy. So I'm going to pass it on, I guess. Bye. Here's Adam. My nemesis, my arch enemy.
Have we started the quiz yet? Pip? Hi everybody, Adam here. Is Jeff coming? Because you just said hello to Jeff. Jeff is coming. Okay, excellent, fantastic. Okay, well, hello to everybody, and I hope everybody's getting ready for a good Christmas. Yeah, we just had a lovely meal here at Spice Village, which is quite near Heathrow, I think, relatively central to all of us. And good conversation, good chat, and unfortunately I'm sat opposite Pip, which was a rookie mistake. I should have been down the other end of the table, but yeah, I've had a good evening so far.
Hey Jeff, this is Garrett. I met with Nick last spring. I got a lovely invite by Nick to come to this shindig, and I appreciate it, and Nick picked me up from the tube station in his lovely red car, and we zipped over here, and it was lovely. So I appreciate the opportunity, and I'll pass you on to Matt.
Hi, Jeff, Matt from the A320 podcast. Always a pleasure to be part of Airline Pilot Guy. And as the others have said, fantastic meal, good curries, good company. And unfortunately, most of us being in the industry we're in aren't drinking. But those as lucky to retire as Captain Nick taken advantage of not having that restriction on their life. So yeah, Merry Christmas to everyone, and I'll hand you over to the wonderful gentleman whose eyes I'm staring into opposite.
A very good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you happen to be. Captain Al here. Unfortunately, what you can't see, because this is a podcast, is the lengths that we've all had to go to so that Nick's recording equipment doesn't end up in the candle flame and go up in smoke. That's really been quite hilarious. So wherever you happen to be, and especially for those of you who happen to be working over your festive period on Christmas Day or on the 24th, if that's important to you, or on New Year's Eve, then we'll raise a glass to you for those of us who aren't working. But have a great Christmas, a happy New Year, and a safe, healthy and prosperous one. Ciao for now.
Well, that's great. Thanks, everybody. It's been a lovely evening. We've had some great food. The restaurant is filling, so before everyone starts staring at us for shouting into microphones, I'm going to close up and thank Al, Matt, Garrett, Adam and Pip for a great evening. So nice to see you guys again. It doesn't happen often enough. Thanks very much indeed. Back to you in the studio, Jeff.
Bye. Now, thank you, Nick. Now, I noticed that almost everybody in the photos were wearing APG hats. Except
oh yeah,
Captain
absolutely.
Nick.
They're such devotees of the Airline Pilot
Nick,
Guy show.
How come you didn't have yours on?
I believe I did.
embarrassed?
I did. I just didn't take a selfie with it on.
Okay.
No, I was making good use of the extra hats that you left in
You're
the
just
UK,
tired of us
so-
of having to keep those over there at your house, aren't you? You're just trying to you're giving them to people
Gave
on
them,
the
she
street.
gave them out as party favors.
It was Christmas, so
Those
I
things
thought-
cost me
without a gift.
$20 a piece.
Well, I'm sure they're all very grateful, and they're not going to use them to.
Well, good.
They're not going to misuse them, is what I should be saying.
That's
that was great. Lovely to see those guys. Al was working at 5 a.m. the next day, so we didn't stay up late. So it was a really nice evening as well. And good curry house too. Good food, big portions. Very impressed. Anyway, that has been my big event. That was kind of at the beginning of last week. Other than that, it's just been preparations for Christmas. And all I can really talk about now is perhaps the artwork. Is now a good time?
Yeah.
Right. Well, we had a story about someone who was trying to smuggle a pair of otters in their trousers. So, of course, Twin Otters becomes an aircraft. The Twin Otter, famous, and of course, one of the aircraft that Steph is qualified to fly and does so frequently. So we, of course, had to put a Twin Otter, or as they're nicknamed, a twatter, into someone's trousers, which we managed to accomplish with a little help of Photoshop. And of course, while we're discussing putting otters in your trousers, we had to relate the old English habit of people in Yorkshire putting ferrets in their trousers, which is called ferret legging. And so we included a ferret that was just about to dive down into its owner's trousers. And there was another story involving a whale on a runway. If you haven't listened to the last show, you definitely, the runway happened to be on the beach, but it was very amusing to have the whale on the runway.
Whale,
exactly right.
Yeah.
So how that whale got there led me to think that perhaps it was something that Douglas Adams would have thought up on his amazing book, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where due to the effects of the improbability drive, a whale and a bowl of petunias appeared in midair and fell towards the Earth. The whale didn't recognize the Earth and hoped it would be his friend. Sadly, it wasn't. And the bowl of petunias said, "Oh no, not again." And anyway, they both feature on this picture of the man with the twatter down his trousers on a beach. So that
42.
was, yeah. Oh yeah, 42. The 42 is there.
It is?
On the aeroplane.
Uh-huh.
Can
Oh,
you
I
see 42 on the aeroplane?
It's just
go
on
up
the
a
other
bit.
side of
Zoom.
It's not as it's just a I see it. I do see it.
And 42 is, of course, Steph.
The answer to life, the universe, and everything.
Absolutely, as devised by the amazing, huge computer
Yes.
that the planet Earth turns out to be. So 42 is there, and there are is the show number. You've got to find the show number. Oh, well done. Yeah, that was quite an easy one. I put it in a tag on his trousers, 598. So that was fun, that one. That worked out quite well.
Very nice. Steph, what have you been up
Over to me. Sorry for stepping away. I may need to step away again. I promise I'm not like making up excuses not to be on the show, but did want to congratulate Captain Jeff on how many years was it with Acme?
35.
35 years at Acme. So congratulations. Nice. Sorry, I stepped away while you were talking about that. What have I been up to? I think I did manage to pop into the last show to give a little bit of an update on everything up to that point. So I think I'm caught up until then. I'll tell you about last weekend and this week, and a nice week for me. The physicians at my group take about 5 days off around the holiday, and either you take kind of the days around Christmas or the days around New Year's, and we split it up so that there's coverage on in all the offices. So this is my week to be off. So I was off yesterday, and I used that time to get my medical renewed. I paid a visit to my aviation medical examiner, and I'm good to go for another year with my second class medical. So good stuff. And then I kind of already alluded to last weekend. I did that wingsuit first jump course. We're really lucky where I have been flying skydivers. We have a lot of world-class folks there, and the gentleman who runs that course is wingsuiting champion in speed wingsuiting and all kinds of other disciplines, which I'll probably mess up if I try to remember all of them. But excellent instruction. Looking forward to new challenges and trying new things. A couple more days off here, so I'm just going to be doing stuff around the house. I don't have any real big plans. I feel like I do enough travel and other stuff throughout the year that during the holidays, sometimes I just like to lay low. So I'll be around the house kind of. I know, right? I'm going to make sure I've got things tidied up around here. Go through, I can't see it because I put it deliberately off camera, but I have a giant stack of papers from the mail over the past several months that I've just been letting accumulate on my desk. So I need to get through all of that. And just kind of reset for the new year. So.
Very good. Mm-hmm. All right. I guess that concludes our getting to know us.
I can hear you, Liz. No, I don't have to leave. I actually don't entirely know what's going on. I will let you know if I do have to. So, in the interest of letting everyone know, I'm got a text from my father that makes me suspicious that he was involved in a motor vehicle collision, and I don't have any details. So, but it sounds like he's okay as far as I can tell. But it is my vehicle.
Oh, which one?
It's a Subaru.
Oh no.
Yeah, I have no details. But,
no. Well, if you need to go, just
I will let you know. You know, he's an adult, and it sounds like he's fine, so he can figure out how to manage that. And I don't know how much assistance I can be for something that's done, and we'll figure it out. So
okay. Well, hopefully it's just a little tiny fender bender.
Who knows? I don't know, but I mean, I was talking about at the beginning of the show, running late, like traffic has just been awful, and people just seem to have turned into the worst drivers ever. So most important thing is everyone's okay, I hope. So
good. All right. Well, I think now it would be a good time for us to talk about our coffee fund. Jeff Smith, the jingle master.
Johnny, how much more coffee? No thanks.
Sings this.
I love coffee. I love tea.
On the jive.
I love the APG community. Coffee and tea and the Java and me. A cup, a cup, a cup, a cup, a cup.
Oh, yeah, the Coffee Fund. We don't have quite as much as the Plane Safety Podcast, 20,000 and up. But we collect a little bit of money to help offset some of the costs of doing the show, buy equipment for our hosts, etc., and and the occasional meetups here and there around the world. And a couple different ways that you can contribute to our show. One is the Coffee Fund Classic method, which is essentially basically set up for one-time donations or one-offs, I like to call them. We do have some recurring contributors to the Coffee Fund Classic method, and we do appreciate all of you, your continued support. The other way to support us financially is to become a patron via patreon.com, and that's where you pledge a certain amount per episode. And we have a new producer, Warren Dixon, is the producer level. Thank you very much, Warren, for joining Patreon and becoming a patron of our show. And we have some feedback from Warren. Hopefully we'll get to shortly. And so if you want to learn more about how you can be part of this wonderful group of people, head over to airlinepilotguy.com/coffee. You'll be glad you did, and we will too. And this is where I hit the feedback thing, right? Where is it? I don't know. I didn't touch anything. Okay. Everybody ready for feedback, or do we need to take a break? Okay.
Captain, incoming message.
Okay. Okay. Let's start with this. Oh, shoot. I have to get a video set up.
Well, Nick is back. Kind of. Yeah, he's working on it.
Okay. And then while we're covering 3, then I can set up the video for 4. Okay. Oh, these have videos too. All right, hang on. Might as well just get them all set up. What do you think? And the reason why you might be wondering, people, why we don't have them already set up and ready to go is that the StreamYard system does allow for me to do that. However, if it sits there for more than a few minutes, when it comes time for me to hit the play button, nothing happens. So it doesn't cooperate. So that's why we kind of have to do it on the fly. And I'll cut all this stuff. Liz made a funny joke, a punny joke. So we're going to talk about the little airplanes thing, Nick Camacho.
Okay.
Any particular one that you think I should do first? I'm kind of just going to play these things in the background while we cover the news, unless you feel like there's some reason for us to watch them fully or have some audio or anything. Camacho.
No. I mean,
okay.
The initial feedback was for those Air Force airplanes.
Yeah.
And I just added in the video afterwards.
Gotcha. So we can start off by look at the slides, and then we can look at some video as well. Okay. I think we're finally back on track here. So Merle and Nick C. Who's Nick C? Sent us some, so let's just say Merle sent us some feedback. The littlest Air Force planes. And Merle says, take a look at these little aircraft. The claimed top speed for the second C-130 is either a typo or deeply concerning. This is from military.com. This first article, the Air Force's most adorable aircraft. Every U.S. military aviation enthusiast has a favorite aircraft, whether they know it or not. Is it the ever-agile F-16 Fighting Falcon, the aggressively belligerent A-10 Thunderbolt II, the uber-expensive F-35 Lightning II, or how about the hulking C-130 Hercules, or the workhorse C-17 Globemaster III? You may spend time arguing over the various capabilities of each of these mighty airframes, but there's one thing most people will agree on. No aircraft is more adorable than those that make up the Air Force's patchwork fleet of miniature aircraft. Seriously.
Aww.
Just look at these things. Aren't they just freaking adorable? They may not fly, but what they lack in airworthiness, they almost certainly make up for in preciousness. And we hope in recruiting value, as that's how they're most often deployed around the United States. Let's take a look at these dainty aircraft, shall we? Who added that in there? Nick.
That was a BD-10, wasn't it?
Did you?
That wasn't
me?
Put
that in there?
No, I didn't. But
That's deflection.
It's a very sweet little airplane.
It didn't just say dainty. Someone added a little
thinking
extra to that word.
Somebody added the dash.
That's the opposite end of the spectrum from where Greg used to work.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, there's I don't know what you guys are showing right now on the
It's the C1.
Oh,
sorry,
okay.
the
C-17.
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 Yeah. Well, this first part of the article, I'm not going to read the entire thing. We'll have it in the show notes for you, as the mini C-130. And now when we say mini, I mean, these are big enough for people to actually climb inside. And
so I'm actually really sad that I missed this event this year now, but I'm sure you'll get to what it was.
Oh, really? Well, the thing that was concerning, and Merle mentioned in his feedback, was this article talks about the mini C-130s operated by Kentucky Air National Guard's 123rd Airlift Wing can hit speeds of up to 120 miles per hour. Wow.
Yeah, that's a typo. If you go down to that little segment below it.
Yeah.
Right. I put that in.
Powered by a 27 horsepower motor and can reach speeds of 20 miles an hour.
So I was kind of skeptical about the 120, and so I did my own research and found this article from the 123rd Airlift Wing regarding this mini C-130. And yes, as Nick Camacho just mentioned, it's powered by a 27 horsepower gasoline motor. It can reach speeds up to 20 miles per hour, not 120. Yeah.
I suppose it could reach 120. It just depends on how.
Yeah, if you threw it off a cliff.
How steep the grade
that's
is.
True. Yeah, what's the terminal velocity? Steph
probably if you put it out the back of an actual C-130, it might reach 100 and
it'd get there at some
20
point.
miles an hour.
Yeah, and then we're showing.
So I alluded to, I guess it wasn't this year, but I guess they've one of the mini C-130s operated by the North Carolina Air National Guard makes appearances at the runway 5K at the Charlotte Douglas International Airport.
That's a real airplane right there. That one that we're watching or
that
seeing
is,
right now.
The BD is a real airplane. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the jet powered version was brilliant. I loved it.
I think, is that the jet powered version? It looks like it is.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. The BD-5 Jet, or J, I think, is the designation on it. And it is a mini airplane, but it's a real one. It actually flies. And it goes pretty fast, probably faster than 120. I would imagine probably over 200 miles an hour. Yeah, continue, Liz, if you have any more, or is that it? Okay. Let me play a little bit of video then from SDS. This is talking about the first flight of the B-29 replica. And let's see if there's any audio.
So this is similar to the Bally bomber that was at Oshkosh a couple times in the last 4 or 5 years. Like a scaled real airplane again.
Looks pretty big.
It looks like an RC airplane right here.
Yeah.
But it's a real airplane. There's a dude in the nose.
No way.
Operating this airplane.
Okay. Oh, is this the one that has the Honda engines?
Yeah, 4 Honda engines.
Wow, look at that. Taking off from a grass airfield. Yeah, that's pretty darn big. I mean, what would you imagine the wingspan on that is? Probably 40, 50 feet, maybe, or more?
Yeah, let's see. 50 feet, yep. At 35% scale, it's about 35 feet long with a wingspan of almost 50 feet, powered by 4 Honda Fit automotive engines with belt reduction drives to the propellers.
Nice. So this video is showing this thing taking off, making a left downwind, left base, and now is on final. Back again, probably going to do a little bit of a flyby. That's amazing. That's a cool airplane. Great project.
Yep.
And I think that this next one that I'm going to add to the stage, this next video also is about this 35% scale B29 and showing a little bit of the manufacturing process in somebody's shop area, basement maybe, I don't know. It's probably not a basement because you wouldn't want
That looks like a
build
decent
something
shop.
down there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to be able to open it up, take it out. They're the Honda Fit engines. That's just amazing. Wonder how long it took them to construct this thing. Wow, pretty cool. All right. Well, we're going to have a link to all the articles and images and videos in our show notes if you want to dive into that. Thank you, Merle, for sending in that feedback. We do appreciate it. Anything else to say, Camacho, before we move on to anything else? Tim Van Ramen, our live audience, kind of ironic. Yeah, we don't hear you, Camacho. Kind of ironic to have Japanese engines in a B-29 as Colonel Tibbetts' plane, the Enola Gay, was a B-29. Yeah, you forgot an apostrophe there, Tim. That's -10. Okay. Now, Camacho, did you want to say anything? We saw your mouth moving, but we didn't hear anything.
No, I just said Tim Van Ram made a comment.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, let me put the next one up, and it's regarding what? Which one am I looking for here? Liz? Okay. Oh, really? Hang on. I think we remove. Wait a minute. Oh. Well, no. See what's So I'm looking at it too, but it's out of San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I think okay. So, yeah, that was just a bad title. Okay. So
He gets
now I know.
Okay.
Now I know which
There's some
video that I need to load because I didn't see anything about JFK on there. Okay, open. This is pretty interesting, I think. Okay, I'm going to add this to the stage, and I'm going to start reading this first before I start playing that. Okay, this was sent in to us from Ernie. And he says, "Hi, Jeff and APG crew. The news article about the close call at JFK brought back some memories of a literal cross-country flight in my son's Piper Cherokee 180. We were following the Pacific Coast transitioning through KSFO's Class B airspace. At the point where it got interesting, we were south of San Francisco International heading north, talking to the tower and assigned 3,500 feet. The tower launched a China-based A380 on one of its west-facing runways and cleared them to 3,000. Okay. So let's see. Shall I read any more? Or do I need to play the video? Let's see. He says, I probably should mention that earlier in the day, while passing through the Los Angeles area, we listened for about 10 or 15 minutes while the approach controller talked with an English as a second language pilot, trying to determine where they were and where they intended to go next. That process required a controller change because the first one was unsuccessful. Anyway, I think this experience played a role in reducing our confidence in what was about to play out. It turns out A380s climb fairly briskly and cover a lot of ground as well. At 239 feet long, it has a 262-foot wingspan, spans 79 feet with the gear down, or stands 79 feet with the gear down. The wingspan was more than half the assigned spacing. They only had 500-foot spacing. Both airframes stick up and down from those assigned levels, and the altimeters, while sensitive, are imprecise. We looked out of the Cherokee's window at the plane climbing toward us, a bit unsure that instructions would be followed. This view of 500-foot vertical spacing raised our excitement level a bit. It turned out we were both flying our assigned and correct flight paths. So here we go. We're going to go ahead and play this, and now you get to see what Earl saw looking out of the Piper 180. Right wing, you see the 380 in the background, just above the wingtip. There he is, just off of one of the 280s. I'd be getting nervous at this point. Wow. That's close. That's what 500 feet looks like, people.
500 feet with a very, very, very large aircraft behind you.
Yes. Yeah. As he mentions, the wingspan of the thing is like, half of that 500 feet.
It's 260 feet,
separation. Anyway, very interesting. I'm glad you had some video of that, Ernie. That was pretty amazing. He said, I think the pilot calling out the situation with the two planes at JFK, which were likely to eventually converge during landing, was both appropriate and warranted. I took a video of my experience that technically doesn't show a close call, but might help listeners appreciate the views. That's what we just watched. So we'll have this in the show notes if you want to watch this video that Ernie did, and it was definitely an eye-opener for sure. Thanks, Ernie. Okay. Next one is from Robert, not Robert Tucker, Robert in Tucker, Georgia. He says, please see attached and congratulations on 600 episodes. And he's got a video as well. So the first item that he sent in was this picture of what do we call these? Like award, employee award notification cards or recognition cards. It says this at the top says Delta Sky Miles. Thank you, Captain Jeff. You went above and beyond today for, and then he put, for 600 episodes. And then he says, now, when are you finally retiring? And he puts that in quotation marks. And so this thing goes on to say, congrats, someone has thanked you for a job well done. Enjoy 500 rewards points. Yay. So thank you very much, Robert, for that. And the second item that Robert sent in was a YouTube video of a Concorde, British Airways Concorde cabin crew member interview. Yeah, I'm trying to remember if I actually got the video for that. Yeah. Okay. Let me just double check, make sure it's not in there somewhere. Nope, it's not in there. So Robert's sharing this with all of us, crew and community. He said, I thought I would share this with you if you haven't seen it. Around the 15.00 timestamp, Ms. Reynolds, the former BA cabin crew member, discusses the feeling she always noticed when going supersonic in flight. Happy holidays to everyone and congratulations on the upcoming episode 600. I did mean to actually clip this, Liz, but I just forgot. But in it, I did watch this, and the question the interviewer asked her was, what was it like? What was the feeling of going supersonic? And so she described the point at which they advanced the power into reheat or afterburner, we call it over here in the U.S., where it puts out a lot more thrust and it pushes the airplane into the supersonic realm. And she said that she could feel it was like a feeling in your seat where you could kind of feel a little bit of a slight pressure in your lower back where the seat is. You're doing that little bit of burst of acceleration there. And what I was going to say about that, and I think that Captain Nick would probably agree, because he's the one that spent, of any of us here on the crew, he spent a very, very long period of time in the supersonic realm compared to my one flight in the T-38. That was the one and only time I ever went supersonic. But I would bet that the sensation that she is describing, Nick, is probably not the supersonic flight aspect of it, but just the engines going into reheat.
Yeah, it's just the increase in thrust. So the feeling of going supersonic is it's a complete non-event. I mean, the aircraft is designed to do it. There's no reaction from the aircraft. There's no real change in feel until you are fully supersonic. It's just a flicker on the Mach meter as it goes right up to Mach 1. And then as the shock wave passes the pitot tube, then it usually flicks just above Mach 1, and that's it, you're supersonic. The only time you have to be a little bit, you actually notice an actual physical feeling is if you're turning hard when you're supersonic and you come some subsonic, the movement of the center of pressure can cause the airplane to tuck. It can increase its effective flight control input. So if you're pulling quite hard, the airplane's turning, and as you come subsonic, it'll turn much harder, which you have to be careful because you can over-G the airplane at that point. That's about the only physical feeling you're going to have.
That, it kind of is, in my mind, somewhat similar, and especially pronounced on the Boeing 727, is that if you're in a turn and you extend the speed brakes, I think, extend the speed brakes a little bit, it increases the roll rate. So if you happen to be like rolling and then you pull the speed brakes out, it'll just accelerate the rate that you're turning. And so you had to be cognizant of the fact that that was going to occur. And it takes a couple of times of actually experiencing it to really understand how significant.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you learn to react and to compensate for it, but it's just the movement of center of pressure when you are supersonic to subsonic.
How many Gs can you pull in supersonic flight? Does it depend on the jet?
No, it depends on the effectiveness of the tailplane, because once you're supersonic, you can put the stick usually back into your guts and you won't get much more than 4 or 5 Gs because the tailplane has become less effective. And the same in the Phantom F-18. They're all, and Tornado come to that. They're all very similar in their handling. And the other thing is when you're supersonic, there is no buffet. You normally get a separation of airflow, causes buffet on the airframe when you're subsonic. And if you're turning hard, you usually get an increase in buffet. When you're supersonic, the airflow is absolutely solidly adhered to the airframe, and there is no buffet. So it's just like going around on rails. It's the smoothest flight you'll have ever had.
Wow. All right. Well, thank you for sharing your experience with supersonic flight, Nick.
Yeah, welcome.
Before we move on, can I bring us back up to 50% from a previous? Yeah, we have to go back to Ernie. No, we didn't. Well, we didn't screw it up. Not really, except we just weren't paying too much attention. Actually, Ludger in our audience caught it. If you go back to Ernie's feedback, since we showed that video, that is a 2-engined aircraft in the video, and yes. So, he actually titled his video "Boeing 777 Departing SFO." So
that's what I thought too.
Yeah.
And then I was a little confused when I was reading it. Right. He said A380.
I didn't watch the video very closely, and then I went back and watched it again.
Yeah, I wasn't.
There was a video.
Close attention either.
Yeah, there was a video. It was in my little tiny inset screen. That's my excuse. But
you didn't see the video, Nick?
Yeah. I did, but I got a bit sick. It made me feel a bit queasy, so I looked away.
I don't want to embarrass Ernie, but we'll just, so we're all on par.
Okay, so I guess we're...
well done to our chat room for...
I'd say Ernie was mostly responsible for being below 50% on that one, but I guess we're not let off the hook.
We were complicit. Noticed. Yeah, we should have been paying better attention, for sure.
Ernie, you're making us look bad, man.
Yeah, it's not hard, I know, but still not ideal.
It really isn't. What? We're coming up on 2.5 hours. I want more time. Okay.
That's what all old people say.
Yeah, please give me some more time. I'm not ready to go yet. All right. No, not share screen. Share video file. And it's the episode 31 Smithy's Southern Cross replica, isn't it? Okay. And I'm going to hit this, and then I'm going to... I'm just going to play this while I talk about this piece of feedback from Ray Davis, or from Down Under. He's been with us for quite some time. Good day, folks. It's been a long time. Hope that you're all doing well. I thought that this may interest you. The Historical Aircraft Restoration Society, also known as HARS, HARS, has finally taken to the sky on Friday morning, 8th of December, in their replica Fokker FV-11B, named the Southern Cross, which the original was flown by Sir Charles Kingford Smith from the 1920s.
You know why it was named Southern Cross?
No.
Kingford Smith was notoriously short-tempered, a very angry man. So, and because it was in Australia, which is south of the equator, it was called Southern Cross.
Because he's his cross attitude.
He's a cross individual.
Attitude, yeah, very, very cross man. Yeah.
You can never tell if Nick's doing a bit or if he's being serious.
I'm not sure.
Because it had nothing to do with the stars that
the constellation.
The constellation that gives you the south pointing star in the southern hemisphere.
Because we have the North Star in the northern hemisphere. And the
Indeed,
Cross
but you can't see that in Australia. So you have a
can't?
Southern Cross. No.
Oh, I see. You can't see the North Star.
No, so you have a Southern Cross, which points at an equivalent Southern.
So the part about him being cross, you just made up, didn't you?
It was a bit. Yeah, he was doing a bit.
I don't know. He might have been. I never met the chap.
Camacho. I thought he was actually being serious. I should know better than that. Anyway, getting back to this from Ray. Sorry, Ray. The replica suffered an undercarriage failure in May 2002, followed by wing and engine damage as it landed at Parafield Airport in Adelaide. After a short flight along the south coast, Victor Hotel Uniform Sierra Uniform returned to Shell Harbor Airport to a tarmac full of happy volunteers. I hope that you enjoy the video attached. Take care. Kindest regards, Ray Davis. I'm having trouble speaking all of a sudden. Well, not all of a sudden. Had this problem for quite some time, actually. Anyway, so the video is still running and watching the Southern Cross come in for landing. Whew. Very nice.
Rolled
it on.
Yeah, 3 times.
A couple of roll-ons.
Yeah, well, they all count.
I'm not judging. Yeah, you can log all 3 of those, I think.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Ray. Appreciate it. Good to hear from you. It's been a while. He's a long time listener of the Airline Pilot Guy show.
Indeed.
And so that airplane has right engines, which I thought was interesting.
No left engines.
Oh, really?
Huh?
No left engines?
Right engine? No left. No. One in the middle, one on the right.
Right, as in like the Wright brothers. Wright Aircraft Company.
I'm trying to do some shtick now because
I know.
Captain Nick encouraged me.
I'm not taking responsibility for that.
Let's see. How much time do we have, Liz? Okay. I want to maybe skip around a little bit. Let me do something here. Let me take a look here to see which ones we want to make sure we cover. This is one I definitely want to do. Number 10. Okay. We received this from a longtime listener and supporter of our show, Ant Pruitt, who is a major master podcaster himself, and also and one of the shows that he is known for is his photography show called Hooked on Photography, I believe. Is that right? Or is it called something else? Anyway, I thought it was like Hop.
Hop. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that right? Hooked on photography? Somebody look that up. I wanna make sure I
Acronyms
get
are
this right.
dangerous, and I can.
They are.
Hold on.
Is anybody looking it up, helping me out?
Yes.
Thanks. Nick should know. He was on his show.
Oh, yeah, I don't remember what it was called. Sorry, Ant. But he doesn't do it anymore.
I know.
Oh, he doesn't? Okay.
No.
No, sadly, he's been...
because he just lost
he's no longer,
his job with...
he's no longer with, Twit.
This Week in Technology, Twit, podcasting network.
Hands-on photography.
Hands-on.
I knew
I knew
hooked on
that
wasn't
hooked on was wrong.
correct. I know, but then I couldn't think of it because you said hooked on, and I was like, oh,
Sorry.
what?
Oh, I see. It's my fault.
Yeah, it's your fault.
Okay, I'll take blame.
You can't put thoughts in my head and then expect me to come up with the correct ones afterwards.
Okay.
I started Googling it. I was going to say I started Googling it and Hooked on Phonics came up, and that.
See, it's not all my fault. Okay, this piece of feedback is from our good friend of the APG, Ant Pruitt, a podcaster himself. Many things that he podcasts on. One of the most famous of all of them is HOP, which is hands-on photography. And he just recently, sadly, lost his position with the Twit Podcasting Network and is looking at what to do next in the next chapter of his career. And he sent us some audio feedback. Honestly, he really did. Why is it not playing? Yeah, I know it played for me earlier. It's just Evernote hates me, I think. Oh, come on. Okay. What do I do? How do I stop it? Okay, go to another note. Go back to this note. I'll hit play once again. Everybody cross your fingers. That did not work. Okay, now I'm going to download it and play it through the Finder. $5.99 here. We'll put it right there, and go like this. See if I can find where I put it. Okay, boom. Ah. It didn't download. It says 0 kilobytes. Try it again. Evernote is just not happy with me today. Okay, let's fingers crossed. Let's try it. Third time's a charm. Nothing. 0 kilobytes. Okay, we're not going to do Ant's feedback. So in your downloads, what do you mean? Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you don't mind, see if that helps. Okay. Okay. This is fun, isn't it?
Who's the
This
heavy
is my
breather?
favorite. Oh, it wasn't me. I was muted.
Okay.
I just was chiming in to say this is my favorite part of the show.
This is my favorite part of the show as well, when everything just goes down the tubes. Okay.
Awkward
I see it
sounds.
here. I don't have a lot of confidence that it's going to play, but I'm going to try it. Got to give it a little bit more time. It's just kind of... Now I see 2 of them in there. And they're both trying to play.
It plays when I press the play button. I assume that doesn't do any good for you, but
No, because we can't hear it going through your machine.
Micah says this is the most accurate part of the show.
Thanks, Micah. Appreciate that. Yeah. Good friend.
Yes, excellent friend.
Yeah.
Only the best friends can say something.
Yeah, well, the
like that
thing
and
is
get
still
away with it.
just not. It's just like it's like almost
Shall
like
we-
a beach ball, but it's not a beach ball. It's just kind of like has this line like, okay, I'm downloading the file. I'm going to play it for you. Really, I'm going to play it for you.
does anybody else
Trust me.
Does anybody else see the irony in us getting totally stumped on the professional podcasters feedback?
Maybe we should lead off with that one the next time, and we'll.
He put a worm in it.
Okay, but let me try this one more time.
Hey there, Miss Liz.
Hey, found it. Okay, got it. Guys, y'all ready?
Hey there, Miss Liz. Dr. Steph. Captain Jeff. Captain Nick, the old pilot. The other Captain Nick. Okay. Hello, APG crew.
There you go. That's easier.
I can't remember everyone's names. Hope y'all doing well. I'm unbelievable as always. I wanted to send in a question. My name is Ant, and I am a fairly loyal listener and listen to the shows as often as I can. And I've always enjoyed the information that's shared as well as the entertainment value that comes along with it. So I wanted to ask this question because it's pretty serious to me anyway. And I'm sure you've been asked this question before over the gazillion of episodes you've done, but I can't say I went back to look at your previous episodes to see if this question was answered. But anyway, I'm going to stop rambling. I wanted to ask about pilot school. Recently, I have been in a position where my job laid me off. It's unfortunate. Stuff happens. Business is business. I get it, but in the meantime, I needed to figure out, okay, what's the next step as far as my career path goes? And some of you know that I am a photographer, and yeah, I could dive back into doing that more for people here in the area in Sonoma County. But I can't say that I'm optimistic about it because I've been burned a couple times out here so far. So I'm thinking if I'm going to do the photography thing, it will be more so with dealing with brands and stuff like that, product photography and whatnot. But anyway, I was having the thought of pilot school. About 10 years ago, I was interested in getting into pilot school, but at the time, it just wasn't ideal. First off, because my boys, hard-headed boys, they were too young. And from what I knew about pilot school back then was it was going to take a whole lot of time and a whole lot of time away. And I personally just didn't believe in doing that. As a father of 2 black boys, I believe that dad needs to be around. So I always said, once they got older, I would consider it, looking at pilot school. So now it's been at least 10 years or so, and it's right around the time that I was thinking about, getting into pilot school if it was an option for me. So I started looking briefly, a day or so after I got my walk-in papers, if you will. And what I saw again was, yes, this is going to take a lot of time, and it could potentially take a lot of money. So thinking about that, I said, okay, well, the time thing I can sort of deal with. My boys are gone. I got one that's in college, so he could care less what I'm doing. And I got one that I'm trying to graduate from high school so he can go off to college and move on to that next phase in life as well. So they probably are not going to need me around as often. But at the same time, I still got to pay bills. I don't know if y'all know anything about California real estate. Not that I own the place that we live in, but ain't nothing cheap out here. So the rent still needs to be paid. The utilities still need to be paid. I need to eat. Queen Pruitt needs to eat. And yes, every now and then I like to have a dadgum beer. So yeah, I had to consider, is this going to be a feasible option as well? So your thoughts. First, are there any particular schools that you all would recommend that I should look into and probably sit down for an interview? Secondly, am I making any sense when it comes to thinking about, all right, this is probably going to take me about 2 years to complete. There's also the huge cost in it because it's almost like paying for college from my understanding. So it's not going to be cheap. So that means paying back debt. And I've heard that you could even somehow put towards some of your debt, putting in time to like help out at the school, whether you're training the new students that's coming in, or something along those lines. But maybe you all can clear that up. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you doing the show, and also I want to say thank you to all of you, the APG crew, for the support that you provided me over the last couple of years with my show and with the recent news of my layoff. I really do appreciate everything. Seriously,
I don't know what happened there.
It means a lot, and it was quite moving. But yeah, thank y'all for your time. God bless, and yeah, here's to a unbelievable 2024. By the way, again, congratulations to you, Captain Jeff, for your air quotes retirement, because I'm not sure what time you get this or when you get this, but I think you're still, quote, retired and not officially retired. All right, this is Ant Pruitt. Y'all take care. Peace.
Thanks, Ant. And that proves that he's actually listening to our show, because he's heard me talk about, hey, I'm kind of not really officially retired, quote, retired. But hey, in just a few days, I'll be actually really technically and officially retired. And so we love you so much. We were so sad to hear about the layoffs over at TWiT, and that you were amongst those that were cut. And we know that you'll get back up on your feet quickly and be just tearing it up out there. As far as his idea of going to pilot training and making flying airplanes a career path for him, do you all know exactly how? I mean, he didn't mention in his feedback how old he is, but I'm guessing probably around 40, in his early 40s. But that age does.
So I've met Ant in person. I actually don't know how old he is, but I mean, if you're anywhere under the age of 60, you could make it happen, like timeline wise. It just depends on, how much time you wanted to put into flying to get all of the requisite ratings and then experience on top of that time wise. If you're going to get into doing some sort of flying job, and there's a lot of different things in there, right? Like if you want to fly airliners, that's that 1,500 hours. But if you're just looking to do something like what I do, or something on the side, or just fly for fun, then that's a very different question that we're answering.
Yeah, I think he's looking for something that will pay the bills.
Yeah. So there's still a lot of options there in what can pay bills and different time requirements. Step one, though, is the same for everybody. Go and take a discovery flight. Make sure that it's something that you actually enjoy doing. There's a lot. I don't know. I can't speak much to flight schools in California, but there's a couple different pathways towards doing that in the United States. There's flight school under Part 61 regulations, and then under Part 141. Just my simplified way of explaining that is Part 61 is like your homeschooling option, and Part 141 is a much more structured in-class, going all the time. That's going to be your full-time job, is to do school and flight training and get through your ratings that way. A formal curriculum. They come with slightly different hour requirements, which are actually kind of negligible, and most people are going to do more than that anyway to get to their ratings and certificates. Some of it comes down to how you learn best and what your resources are. I did all of my private pilot training while I was working full time. So, and I happened to get into flying through a friend who was a flight instructor. So doing Part 61 was kind of a no-brainer for me. I could fly with the instructor when it worked out for our mutual schedules. And, he knew quite a bit about my background and learning style already. So it was easy to come up with a individualized study plan for all the ground school portion of things. But, if you have a chunk of time that you're able to just set aside and work on getting through ratings, then you may want to look at a school that's 141 accredited, so you can just have more of a structured curriculum and start, hammering away at requirements and hours.
Yeah, I think the two things that are going to be the toughest obstacle, not the age, the time and the money to do this. So, I mean, if I don't know if you know this answer or not, maybe Camacho does. If he said, okay, next week, or let's say January 1st, or obviously not the 1st, but, the beginning of the year, I'm going to enroll in one of these Part 141 schools, or one of these things where, we're going to give you private instrument, multi-engine,
commercial, multi, yep, CFI, CFII,
CFI, all those things.
Instructor, yep.
So, first of all, the time, if you devote like 100% of your time to one of those kind of schools, you could probably get all those. How long would it take for somebody to get all those ratings?
I know people who have gotten all of those ratings in under a year.
Wow.
It can happen really fast.
That's pretty intense.
It's a lot of flying. It's a lot of time.
Okay.
And then typically what happens is then you sign on with the school to be an instructor there if you want to continue building time by instructing. It's not necessarily, it depends on the school. There's a lot of different types of structures out there, so you have to know who you're talking to, but and what their setup is. But a lot of folks do that because then you've earned those ratings as an instructor. It's very easy just to segue into being an instructor, and then some of that comes down, how much you fly ends up coming down to location, student volume, your willingness to put in a lot of unusual hours potentially with instructing, weather. There's certain parts of the country that might be better for doing that than others. Some folks end up getting all those ratings. They end up somewhere around 300 hours or so, and then they decide to do something totally different to build the rest of their time. And there's all kinds of things out there. It just depends. There's so many variables.
And the money would be definitely something north of 100,000, right?
Yeah.
If you're going to do a structured 141 school and go through all of your ratings in a short period of time, yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just kind of laying it out there for everybody listening to know when we say a lot of money, this is what we mean.
We're talking
Go ahead,
6 figures worth of debt, yeah.
I was just going to say, so I just looked up ATP schools, or ATP flight schools, which is one of the prominent Part 141 schools, and they have locations all through the country. And their information page says it takes 7 months starting from zero time, or 5 months starting with a private pilot license. And it costs $105,000 with no private pilot's certificate, or $84,000 with credit for the private. Plus $3,000 in California.
And I don't know if that includes like your room and board as well, or if that's just the tuition, basically. I'm not sure.
I bet it does.
But just
include.
probably
I
not
think that's
factor.
just tuition.
Yeah, that's just tuition. Yeah. So, Maine Marin brings up a great point. Before you start flying, good idea to go get your medical certificate done, because if there's something that's going to hold you up there, that might be something you want to know before you outlay a lot of money.
And a class
and
one.
Any good, well, if you want to fly professionally for airlines, then, there's always some debate on that. You would want to know if there was anything that's going to hold you up from getting a class 1 certificate. So certainly those things can change over time. If you're not looking to do something where you might need a class 1 certificate, then you probably just want to start with whatever you need.
Tanya says, in our live audience, are there any regionals that have a, quote, "will train you" program?
So there's quite a few airlines now that have pathway programs, and I don't know all the details on those, but typically it's that you go to one of their affiliated flight schools, and then upon completion of that, there's a pathway through being a CFI for the school and building your hours that way that will then get you usually conditional job offer with that airline upon completion of all.
In our news segment, we talked about the Diamond DA-40.
Yep, Lift Academy.
From Lift Academy, which is one of those kind of programs that I think it's Republic, I believe, runs Lift Academy.
So yeah, so Republic has one, United has Aviate. There's a handful of them out there, but it's typically that you're at an affiliated, and someone might correct me if I'm wrong on this, but you're at an affiliated school. You go through the program that makes you a kind of a cadet in their system, and then upon completion of requirements, then kind of without all the formal interview process, because they already know who you are, they will grant you that conditional job offer.
Yeah, Southwest has one called 225.
Yeah, there's a number of them. Yeah, JetBlue has one, I think. Yeah.
And if there's any time in history that is just ripe for getting into this world of professional flying, it's now. It still is. And not sure how long that'll be, but it'll probably be for some time.
Hiring has slowed down a little bit, but it's not going to stop anytime soon. Yeah, it's not going to stop. There's kind of just been a shift where, especially regionals got very inundated with first officers and lost all of their more senior folks to more legacy type airlines, and then kind of had this backlog of lots of first officers, no captains, and just trying to kind of smooth all that out. But that's just stuff that's going to work its way through the pipeline. So it's still a good time.
I've heard there's some regionals out there hiring people directly as captains.
They are, and they're offering a lot of money if you plan on sticking around with them for a while as sign-on bonuses.
In fact, some of these airlines, even majors, are so desperate they'll actually hire air traffic controllers. That's what I've heard.
Ouch. Dig.
I'm just trying to get
it's only from some towers. Not every tower is included.
Can you believe those guys? Not only do they think they can cover the air traffic control better than us, but now they're stepping right into the airline pilot realm too.
Stay in your lane.
Well, we're one of the better podcasts out there. The guy didn't say the best.
Not for long. Not for long. If people
well,
keep
it doesn't matter.
on us.
They've been the best. So we're just one of the better.
I know. We're just one of many. Anyway, I had to pimp it a little bit.
So I have a couple of comments.
We're doing well.
He mentioned that his kids are going to be out of the house soon, and I think that's an important piece of information in his equation. If he's and I don't know any of the background on him or his wife, but if that opens up, it sounds like it opens up the capability for him to be able to travel and do things, be gone for longer periods of time. That's advantageous to him. But I think I don't know how salary scales are going to change in the next, taking a wild guess, if he's 45 or a person who's 45, right? They basically have 20 years to fly for a 121. So there is some level of algebra that you can do from just a mathematical standpoint, right? You can go out and do research and say, it's going to cost me X amount of dollars to get all the training that I need to get. And then once I spend that much money, I can make approximately this much money a year for 20 years. Well, it'll take him a couple years to do the training. So, factor all that in, but you should be able to make a reasonably educated mathematical guess at how all the pay stuff works out. But there are ancillary factors like being away from home or where you're based and that sort of thing. But another thing is if you're interested in it and both your boys are out of the house, it might be worth looking at relocating if whatever your wife's profession would allow it, because if you're looking at, a 10 to 12 month training cycle just to get to the point where you can make money with your pilot's license, and then probably a couple of years of time building before you can get in with a regional carrier. If you're not tied to the Bay Area, that might be one way to make it more feasible, is to, relocate to an area where cost of living is much more, is much lower. Additionally, if you go somewhere like Arizona, I think that basically, if you go anywhere but the Bay Area, I think the training will be a lot easier because you'll be able to fly a lot more often.
The weather's going to be much more favorable.
Yeah, when you look at the training volume, there's a huge training volume in both Arizona and Florida, and that's because they can run 10 hours a day, 365 days a year, whereas places like San Francisco and in the north, you're hampered for large portions of the year with weather. So I think those are a couple of additional aspects to look at.
Yeah.
No, great points.
So
yeah, there's a lot of options out there. There's an overwhelming amount of information on the internet. But I think the stuff that we kind of just went through briefly in the last few minutes are kind of the highlights of things to really consider and then figure out what works best for you.
Yep.
But if you're asking if it's possible, the airlines used to not hire anybody, right? Over the age of what like 30 or 50? Yeah.
30.
And now they're sending out
there's people
postcards to people that are like 58 years old.
There's people in new hire classes going in as first officers over the age of 60.
Yeah.
Second careers, third careers. Yeah.
And they only have a couple of years there. I guess they're kind of hoping that they'll up the age to 67 or maybe even more.
Maybe, but you know what? At the end of the day, they need folks to fly. And you know what? If you're going to be here for 5 years, but you're with our company for 5 years and we're not going to lose you after 6 months to somewhere else, that's great.
Yeah. All right, Ant. We're all in there with you, and our best wishes and prayers are being sent your way, and we hope that if you have any more questions, maybe something specific we didn't cover, please don't hesitate to send us some more feedback. Mm-hmm. All right, let's go to number 12, and things in the back channel are not going well. So let's go to number 12, feedback from Warren, one of our newest Patreon or patron at Patreon. Hi, APG crew. I've recently joined your Patreon again after a 4-year hiatus, which I'll get to in a minute. But first, I have a question for Captain Nick. Did you ever fly the A340 from Heathrow to Johannesburg? And if so, did you fly that route on 15 August 2001? That's pretty specific. If so, you may be the reason that I wanted to become an airline pilot.
Well, that's pretty obvious no, because if I had flown it, you'd probably be going, no, this is the last thing I ever want to do. I would love to look into my logbook and tell you, but during that period, I had an electronic logbook, and all of a sudden, an iOS update and the app refused to talk to each other. And I had done the iOS update. I could no longer access the app. So I lost about 3 years of flying. Now, the company had my details, so that was fine, but I didn't have a personal record. So that encompasses that period. It might very well have been me, but you would have heard my dulcet tones over the PA, and unless you were struck by how eloquent and handsome I sounded, it was probably one of the other gits that often flies. So tell us
how you really feel about them.
Yeah, sorry about that.
He continues, I was born in South Africa, but my family moved back to the UK when I was young. And the August 2001 flight was my first time flying back to South Africa on the Virgin A340. And that's when I decided that I wanted to be a pilot at the grand old age of 11. Fast forward.
I'm feeling so old now.
Well, I think all of us, unfortunately.
Say that, did you, Warren? Fast forward a few years, and I was using APG to accompany me on my long weekly drives from my home in Dorset to my flying school in London. And I was contributing to the coffee fund. We thank you for that.
Good man.
By the time I passed all my flight tests, COVID had kicked in and the industry had shut down, with the media telling me I would never recover and we would never fly again. It's at this point that I decided to take a break from aviation and APG, as any reference to aviation just depressed me and my very unhealthy
I'm so
bank
sad to
balance.
hear that.
Yeah. However, good news. I'm happy to say that I didn't give up completely. And in early January 2024, I will start my first airline pilot flying job. Excuse me, my first airline pilot job flying the Embraer 190 out of London City Airport. So yeah, it just goes to show the media can't predict the future. Who knew? Yay, love the show, Warren.
Great job.
Awesome. Great
Well done.
news, Warren. And thanks for re-upping as a producer patron on patreon.com. We do appreciate that.
London City is a challenging airport to fly in and out. So I, take my hat off to you. My Father Christmas hat off to you.
Absolutely.
It's a cool airport.
So we're going to do
Brighton.
two more.
Good location.
Yep, we're past the 3-hour mark, but that's okay. I told Liz, we only had a little over 2 hours last week, so we're going a little bit long on this one. This is our special Christmas gift to you all. And
Merry Christmas.
So, yeah, we're going to go do 14 and 15, and then we'll wrap it up. What do you think?
Okay.
All right. So this from Dave, and he says, I wanted to give you guys credit. As a longtime listener, I've adopted your turn of phrase at my... As a longtime listener, I have adopted your turn of phrase at my day job, which is supply chain management logistics. I have a Mexico move that has to deliver Friday morning because, Merry effing Christmas and all that jazz. It's been one challenge after another, and just when I think this full truckload is on track to deliver, some other issues come up. I said to a coworker, I have a really bad feeling about this. The Funyuns are starting to get in line here, and I don't like it. And then I had to explain what the heck that meant. Instead of coming across as kind of cool and witty, she looked at me like I was a total nerd and chuckled and said, Alrighty then. Nerd alert! So thanks. Happy holidays, Dave. Just wanted to do that nice and quick one. That was funny. We're having that
great.
kind of a negative influence on people out there. Sorry, Dave. Made him look
Negative.
like a nerd.
Maybe not.
Alrighty then. And then finally, this from another Dave, or David Lieb, who is in our live audience. And he said, this is some audio feedback. So I'm going to go ahead and just hit play and see what happens.
Greetings, APG crew and community. This is David Lieb coming to you from my new residence about 20 plus miles south of Boston, Massachusetts, USA. So I just wanted to send in something really quick to wish our friend Captain Jeff a very happy retirement. What a career. I know it's coming up in just a few days, so I wanted to get this in. I think there's also a milestone episode show coming up as well, because I believe the last show I just listened to, and I am up to date, is 598. Anyway, I hope all is well with everyone on the crew and the community. I have been very busy this year doing a lot of things, a lot of music and some flying, and even putting out songs about flying, or a song. More on that later. I do not want to hog up the airwaves with a lengthy message at this point. I just wanted to get this quick one in, and before the next show, or definitely before 600. So always thinking about you guys on the crew and the community. I'm listening intently. I just haven't been able to jump on live that much lately. So hopefully I will soon, and I'm definitely planning on it for 600. Take good care, everybody, and we shall all see each other and chat soon. Looking forward to next year's meetup whenever that happens. Cheers, y'all.
Thank you, David. Yeah, we love you too. I've met up in several meetups over the years with David Lieb, and he's an awesome musician and teacher and friend. So thank you for the well wishes. And you're right, milestone. I just mentioned it earlier in the show. 35 years, just a couple of days ago, coming up on real retirement here next week on the 26th. And he's right. There is a big milestone episode coming up, and that's going to be next week sometime, episode 600. So thanks for the well wishes, sir. He said, I had a much longer message ready to go, but I'll save that for the new year. He said, I'm sure things are getting extra busy over there in APG land, especially with the show 600 just around the corner. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. David Lieb in Rockland, Massachusetts. So that's always good to hear from you, David. And that's going to do it for our show today. And we're going to now do the wrap-up, which is first to start by pointing you over to our website, airlinepilotguy.com, where you'll find information about the crew and the community calendar, merchandise, and the APG library, and more information about each of the individual plane tails that the old pilot produces, and so much more. So again, check out airlinepilotguy.com. We're also on the social medias, and Steph, it's your turn now because we've been picking up the slack for you.
Yeah, we've covered for you so many times.
I'm sure they were all excellent covers.
Eye-watering.
Like flawless, just beautiful.
Well, I didn't say flawless.
Of course I've been listening to them. Yeah, definitely.
I believe
so, yeah, in case you didn't know, we're on Facebook. That's facebook.com/airlinepilotguy. Also on X, Twitter, whatever, at APG Crew. Individual handles are pinned to the top of that page. And then you can find Captain Nick's lovely show artwork for each show over on the Instagram. We're also APG Crew. And speaking of slacking, it's definitely not me. I don't know why you would say such things, but if you want to be a slacker, because that's actually a good thing, Hillel will tell you about it.
I think I hear the shower. I think he's here. Hang on. Hillel. Slack?
Okay, but I'm dripping wet.
That's okay. Come on over. Tell us about Slack.
APG listeners, please join us on our Slack team. Slack is a communication, coordination, and sharing platform that works on your mobile, laptop, or browser. On Slack, we share news and ideas. We suggest episode and Plain Tales topics. We plan events and meetups. To get into the Slack team, please email me at slack@airlinepilotguy.com. That's SLACK, Sierra Lima Alpha Charlie Kilo @airlinepilotguy.com, or send me a tweet with your preferred email address to @Hillel, and I'll send you an invitation. That's Hillel, spelled Hotel India 11 Echo 1, and see you in Slack.
Thanks a lot, Hillel. Uh-oh.
I wouldn't go in there for a while, Captain.
Okay.
Your water bill must be terrible.
That's crazy. All right, and
who's got the howling hound? Come on, own up.
That's me. Sorry about that.
It's a Christmas howl.
Yes,
yeah. So before we go, we'd like to say thank you for this great year of APG. Thank you everybody for listening and supporting us, sending in feedback, all that stuff. And we do have one more show to go before the end of the year. I don't know if it's going to be published before 2024, but we're going to record it before year end here, 2023. And we just want to wish you all happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, and Saint Michael's feast day and Boxing Day and all the things, all the holidays. Festivus, I think, is coming up pretty quick as well.
The 23rd. Yes.
It's the holiday for the rest of us, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is that noise? Did you hear that?
No.
Yeah. It's Nick's dog.
No, there was something here.
I'm muted.
In somewhere near me, outside or something. It
Oh.
was like a really odd noise that I'm going to have to investigate as soon as we
Aliens
finish
are
recording.
coming for you.
Someone's
Anyway.
trying to. Yeah, you're being shot at probably.
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I should turn
It's
the lights
America.
off so they don't have such a great target. I'm a very large target for them. We'd also want to thank, before we go, our producer, Liz. Thanks for all the great hard work you do before, during, and after the show.
Brilliant. Well done, Liz.
And I want to personally thank all of my hosts, co-hosts, and all the work and time that they put in this show. And I love you guys. I love all of our live audience members. I love all of you in our audience. And we'll, I guess, see you next week. And until then, wishing you all clear skies, unlimited visibility, and tailwinds. Take care. God bless.
Cheers, y'all.
Bye, buddy.
See you next time.
Happy holidays.
Boy, that was a big delay.
I was muted.
Don't anybody go.
That's where you're going, shoot.
Don't anybody go yet, because we want to make sure that when we end the stream, then everybody stay on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just to make sure all the files are, because I think I have some Scotia audio locally here.
So Nick, titles, I've seen some in the chat room. You've been talking to the chat room about titles. Have you got something? I've got a couple.
Yeah, I've got one which is Jeff turns into a pumpkin, which I quite like the idea of, because I could do that.
I knew I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, my two were very similar to. I've got EpiPen Epiphany, which I think iHall Boxes had, and then Steffi had I love my ADSB.
I thought it was I love my APG, but it's I love my ADSB.
No, she loves her ADSB more.
ADSB,
yeah,
just
obviously.
like MTV back then.
And then hands off my lead.
For lead gas.
Yeah.
Leaded gasoline.
Let us be.
Let us be. Oh, that's good.
If you do the
It
turning
could
into
easily
a pump,
be hands off my lead.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Doesn't that what your dogs say all the time?
Yes, exactly.
If you do the pumpkin idea, the thing that pops into my head is Cinderella and the little carriage. Isn't the carriage like in the
Yes.
shape of
Are
a
you
pumpkin?
going to have a glass shoe on, Jeff? A little glass shoe?
You're
gonna
not Cinderella, you're the pumpkin.
I know. I want to be Cinderella, though.
He wants to be pretty.
Yeah.
Jeff in a gown.
You're
Jeff
can
in
you
a
turn your gain
dress.
down a little bit, Liz? You're kind of
Oh, sorry.
over modulating. Thanks.
I want Jeff to be scrubbing the hearth there. You know how the evil stepsisters put him to work.
Good idea.
So mean.
Well, and then you turn into Cinderella.
Jeff, would you mind dressing up in a gown and getting down on your hands and knees and take some selfies?
Do I have to send
first of
Jeff
all-
a gown to wear?
First of all, I don't know what you think, but I don't have any gowns.
That could be arranged. Don't worry.
I want to see his neighbors looking in the window.
Yeah.
I'd make sure that the blinds were
I-
shut before.
just send me your
the-
measurements
and
and I'll
while
get in
you're
touch
down
with
there-
Rent the Runway and we'll send some gowns your way. Worth it. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
What was the
Some great
Swiss
ideas.
guillotin? I've forgotten.
Well,
that.
that
Oh,
was that was the
parachutist.
that's a bit. That's a bit.
Yeah, I don't know if we need artwork for that. That's
No, I don't think
Yeah,
so.
there's iHall boxes. What do you expect?
Exactly. I mean, somewhere there's a family hurt, and we have to remember that.
yes.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody that has anybody in their family listening to this show,
They're hurting.
Family hurts. Yeah.
Oh dear.
Okay. Well, I guess if any of you need to leave, like it's getting quite late for you, Captain Nick. If you do leave, because we're going to see
I've
if
got
anybody
20
wants-
minutes.
Okay. But if any of you decide to peel off, just leave it your machine on, whatever. So we just want to make sure we get the files up.
Are we ending the stream or not now?
No, we're not going to end the stream because
okay.
we're going to do the thing with the if anybody,
Thing with the ding.
Yeah, well, I don't know if anybody. Really
well,
wants
I
to...
know Tim Van Ram was going to, but he had to go, so he's not.
Okay. Well, let me just throw it out there in case anybody wants to try this. And it's just kind of a sort of a dress rehearsal for 600 for people that want to join the show. And and again, there's a document that you need to read to see if you have everything that's necessary to make it so it's not
including
painful.
$200.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. That's not in the document. That's something that
the entry fee to get into StreamYard.
Absolutely,
it was added, but it just wasn't in time, for showtime.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there's a link, and if you want to, again, if you're going to join us or try this, you need to have headphones or earbuds or something, so we don't have your speaker, creating an endless loop, which is horrible. And of course, a camera so that we can see your lovely face.
And some kind of microphone.
A camera pointed at your lovely face, please. We don't want to see any other part of you.
Yeah, that's good point. Good point. And also, Liz makes a good point that an external microphone connected to your device is highly recommended.
Preferable, exactly.
Yeah.
And just to reiterate, it'll just be a sort of little cameo on the show. We'll be asking you on. You can say hi and stuff, and then we'll have to move along because we don't have that many slots for everybody.
Right. We don't want to have like a max. I think this thing can do 10 max, but it gets, even right now with 5 of us,
including the crew.
Yeah, including the crew. So yeah, so we, talking over each other and all that kind of stuff can be even more of a problem when we have more people involved in the gallery. But anyway, yeah, if you have something that you want to come on and well wish us for the 600 episodes or whatever, tell us how great we are, all that stuff.
Ask a question,
or even
ask an interesting question.
As long as it doesn't get too long and drawn out, we can do that.
Yeah. We might take note of that and save it for the next show, kind of thing, maybe.
Yeah. Looks like Ludger is going to give it another attempt. So here we go. We're adding Ludger. Hey.
Mein Luftkissen-Fahrzeug ist voll mit allen.
Ja, neuer Versuch, neues Glück. Letztes Mal.
Wait a minute, there's something wrong. He's speaking. I can hear him, but I'm not understanding what he's saying.
No problem. I can speak English as well. But now I've got to get rid of that old double audio problem. We'll see if...
Excellent. Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah,
you sound great. You look great.
He's got double audio. That's what he said.
He's got it.
Yeah. Oh, and I think he froze.
Oh, it looks like he's frozen.
No, those Germans can stay very still. Never trust them.
Nick.
He's so awestruck to hear Captain Nick's voice, I think, and see Captain Nick.
Everybody's awestruck by Nick.
Especially his German.
That's one word for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, this experiment's working so well.
Yeah, so far so good. Okay, so I'm going to have to put together a whole show.
They don't have internet in Germany. Did anyone?
Not.
I guess it gets turned off at midnight or something.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah. I'm sorry, but we're making fun of you at your expense.
And you can't reply.
Yeah,
it's not fair.
We see his nice picture is still there.
Yeah.
That's it.
I think not to give anything away, but I think the crew needs to have a little bit of a chat about the next show too, about how we're all going to do it. So,
yeah,
swing it.
Okay.
No, we. You're right. Of course, you're always right. Box has said, "I try again," is what he said. Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, why don't we do this? Let me.
Look at Nick has his girlfriend on his lap there.
I see that.
A lap dance.
Julie's gone to bed, and now he's got his girlfriend on his lap.
Very much so.
Hi,
Beautiful doggy.
Zeta.
Good
Hi,
girl.
Zeta.
Well,
All
that
right.
went well.
Do you want me
didn't
to? Yeah.
No,
I
don't think it
you
went
probably
well.
need to head out, Steph.
I'm a little anxious to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, I
Heard
hope that
anything more, so-
everything's okay.
Yeah, me too.
Let me.
concerned.
So I think
I can
that
leave this
if-
running though, if
Yeah, please
I'll tell you
do,
what.
Steph.
Looks like there's not a lot going to be going on here.
No.
And doesn't look like anybody else is taking us up on it. So
The stream.
yeah, on the stream. So why don't we go ahead and end the stream then?
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
All right.
Have a
Merry
good
Christmas, everybody.